After a fight, Siok Cho, his body covered in heavy wounds, sat on a subway seat and quietly waited to meet his girlfriend. When he rushed to meet his girlfriend, Miong, to make it on time, he told his girlfriend to get on the train first, and then he put her things inside the train for her. Thinking he could run away with her this time, a stranger came in front of Siok Cho and stabbed him. His wounded body fell down in regret, even though he knew he would end up like this in the end. Going back to a time before, when Siok Cho was still attending a poetry class, he was the eldest son of a gang, but he had liked poetry since he was a kid. The poetry he created was very powerful and raw. Even the way he used a knife was described crudely: cutting, stabbing, twisting, slicing, and turning it over. His poetry described a person being stabbed to the point of bleeding. It was so real that it was like describing the actual event, making everyone shiver a little. But they couldn't help but acknowledge that Siok Cho's poetry was so good that even the teacher praised it as good and very concise. When he left, the other students in the class began to wonder what Siok Cho's identity was. An old man revealed Siok Cho's identity, surprising the classmate. Just as he got outside, Siok Cho received a phone call about a fight in Janrong neighborhood. Siok Cho didn't really want to care, but his police friend said, "I'm coming to your house." Not knowing what was going on, Siok Cho got a call and was told that he was bringing the chairman and Tae-hun to the house. He had just been writing poetry and didn't know what was going on at home. So many gangsters were gathering, and there was even a police officer. Siok Cho decided that he wouldn't go back to the office, but would go straight home. At Siok Cho's house, his parents were an old couple, looking no different from very normal old people, with a life of growing vegetables and raising livestock. But in reality, he was a retired crime boss. Siok Cho called his dad to ask what was going on. His dad said, "Those snot-nosed grandchildren keep making me stand in the middle to mediate for them, and they even filed a report to the police station." After speaking, he began to tidy up his appearance, waiting for those troublemaking grandchildren to come and sit at the tea table. Siok Cho's dad reviewed the video of these two grandchildren, bringing people to make trouble in front of the Janrong neighborhood nightclub 2 days ago. Because it was a case involving gangs, the police were also having a headache, and wanted to ask him to mediate for these unemployed grandchildren. Luckily, no civilians were injured, or the police would have arrested them. When Siok Cho got home, he saw his friend bullying a younger guy. Siok Cho asked if those people had gone inside yet. The two went to the back of the house and talked. Siok Cho told his friend not to smoke in front of the jars, or his mom would smack his butt. He wondered why the police had brought those people to his house. His friend only knew it was the chief's orders, but he didn't know the reason. But the situation was awkward, since his close friend was a thug who was now a police officer, and Siok Cho was a kid who just wanted to write poetry but had become a thug. Life was very ironic. Siok Cho asked, "How about we switch now?" Inside the house, Siok Cho's dad started talking about how brothers should never put knives to each other's throats. They should be peaceful. So why were they fighting like this? He wanted the two to stand up, apologize, and shake hands, but neither of them would. He said, "Should I stand up and help you guys shake hands?" So the two finally reconciled. "I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry, brother." He was satisfied, considering the matter closed. After reconciling with his two nephews, his underling Dae-yi also came to visit his brother, and told the two guys to be careful in the future, and not to make his boss tired anymore. Not yet tired of those gangsters, Siok Cho was bringing stuff to the car for his mom when he got a notice from the bank about debt collection. Siok Cho also had an older sister named Siok Gong, a real troublemaker who had borrowed heavily from the bank, and the amount that Siok Cho's family currently had to pay was 368 million won. Thanks to his sister, Siok Cho's family was about to be homeless. Wondering who had answered the phone from the bank, Siok Cho went in and asked his dad what was going on. His dad said he would take care of it himself, and that he didn't have to worry about it. One of his underlings was taking care of it. Siok Cho currently wanted to quit his job at the company he was working at, so he went to find his company's manager to ask to quit. But the company wasn't a normal company. If Siok Cho wanted to quit, he had to do one task. That was to clean up the bar area to get the construction contract there. Because if Siok Cho just quit, the boss wouldn't know what to say to the chairman. After asking to quit, Siok Cho brought the kimchi his mom made to deliver to his younger sister. Siok Hui at the hospital. The younger sister kept complaining that putting kimchi in the car would make it smell. But Siok Cho didn't care. He didn't know what good deed he had done to have to bring kimchi to his younger sister. While waiting for his younger sister, Siok Cho suddenly ran into his first love, who was also stopping by the hospital. The two looked at each other and seemed very happy and welcoming. After sitting down with his younger sister, Siok Hui introduced her friend to her brother, but it seemed like the two had met before. Siok Hui asked her close friend, and she just said that the two had met occasionally. But there wasn't much to it. Siok Hui then introduced that Miong was a celebrity now. Just singing had other students coming to see her, as if she were an idol. She even took out a YouTube channel called Miong's Little Singing Room for her brother to see. It had 1,000 subscribers. He liked and hearted it a lot, making her friend Miong very shy. Suddenly, the atmosphere of the two seemed a little tense, making the younger sister feel like the two had something going on. When he got home, Siok Cho replayed Miong's music and remembered back in high school, when he always sat next to his first love and listened to her sing. Back then, Siok Cho had been confessed to by her and given a book just because she heard that Siok Cho liked books. But because Miong had a personal matter, the two had to be apart for a long time. When he got home that night, Siok Cho was smiling while looking at his first love, until he took out the book his first love gave him. But before he could read it, his nephew came and asked if he could sleep with him. Sleeping with him because he was afraid of ghosts was one thing, but he was trying to indoctrinate his nephew to like his future aunt. He was really something. The nephew said his mom was prettier, and asked him about not finding his nephew's mom yet. Siok Cho's sister had disappeared after borrowing money, leaving this nephew to be raised by Siok Cho's family. Miong currently had an opportunity to record a song, but she felt really stressed facing so many people in front of her. After being criticized at the audition, Miong was told that a singer had to be able to face many people. Anyway, you worked hard. Because it had been so long since he'd seen his first love, he went to see his younger sister to ask about Miong. Siok Hui could tell right away that he wanted to ask for Miong's phone number. Only his sister could understand his heart. Siok Hui knew that he had feelings, but still didn't give Siok Cho Miong's phone number. She said that recently she came to her just for money. It seemed that from the time she transferred schools in the past, Miong's family had been having some difficulties. Hearing that Miong needed money made Siok Cho even more curious about the reason she transferred schools in the past. He wanted to ask his sister more about his first love, but she ignored him, didn't say anything more, and went back to work. Suddenly, Miong took the initiative to text Siok Cho. It was nice meeting you, and sorry for not saying hello properly last time. You didn't need to search. The person you wanted to find found you. This guy had been single for too long. They agreed to meet later, and they were both smiling, so happy. After arriving at the cafe, Siok Cho kept looking around, but couldn't see Miong anywhere. It turned out she was working there part-time. Miong had to admit that Siok Cho looked more mature than before. After Miong finished work, the two went to the park to talk about the event that year, when she had to leave, abandoning Siok Cho. Even though she left without saying anything, Miong admitted that she was always thinking about Siok Cho, wondering how he was living or if she would ever see him again. Siok Cho admitted that he had the exact same thoughts as Miong. It was lucky that the two had the opportunity to meet again here. Miong shared that she still wanted to do what she liked, but hadn't been successful yet. Siok Cho asked about Miong's audition. She said she had failed because she couldn't sing in front of others. Whenever she was in front of someone, Miong was afraid that everything around her would go dark, just because she felt she didn't have enough courage, but she was used to it anyway. Now Miong had something to do, so she asked Siok Cho if she could go first. He wanted to have the opportunity to show off, so he invited Miong to get in his car to save her from taking the bus. Sitting in a car and speeding like this felt like a trip. Siok Cho also liked that he normally sat alone, but now he had someone sitting next to him, which felt nice. Siok Cho wanted to go with Miong like this more often. The place the two went was the nursing home. Miong said her mom's health wasn't good, so she had to bring her here. Since they were here, Siok Cho asked Miong if he could also visit her mom. After introducing himself to Miong's mom inside, she said about Siok Cho, "When I was selling kimbap, he used to come over a lot." She recognized him as the broom at her house. At that time, Siok Cho was a little embarrassed to be called the broom when meeting an acquaintance. Back then, Miong's mom had chased Siok Cho with a broom, so he had that nickname. While they were having fun, she suddenly turned to her daughter and cried, saying she didn't want to be here because it was scary here. After comforting her mom, Miong and Siok Cho took her to where the piano was and left. But to help Miong overcome her fear of singing in front of crowds, Siok Cho thought of a way to have her play the piano and perform in front of everyone at the nursing home. Siok Cho specifically announced to everyone that today he had invited a female singer. She was going to become the most famous singer in Korea. Seeing Siok Cho plead and encourage her like this, Miong began to summon all her courage and started playing a piece of music. Fear, laughter, and talk started to appear in her mind. The jokes, bullying, and photos from that year always made Miong afraid. and unable to continue playing. However, she still summoned all her courage and started singing with a trembling voice. Siok Cho was happy, and so was her mom. Seeing her daughter able to express herself comfortably, she couldn't help but start crying. Meanwhile, at the hospital, a patient named Go Yong came to see the doctor to get examined about her life. Siok Cho recognized her as a very close friend of her older sister. She asked Miss Go, "You often sit cross-legged for a long time, right?" Miss Go wondered who this nurse was. Siok Cho introduced herself as Siok Cho, the younger sister of Siok Gong, your best friend in high school. The older woman startled like she had met a demon. Siok Cho must have hated this woman, so she pushed the cart a little fast because she was a close friend of Siok Gong. Siok Cho hated her older sister, so she wanted to ask her enemy's best friend where her sister was. Siok Cho threatened that if she didn't reveal any information, she would hand this woman over to her thug brother. That night, after taking Miong home, his younger sister Siok Cho called Siok Cho and asked if he knew Go, his sister Siok Gong's friend. He knew that was the older sister who was addicted to gambling. Siok Cho said she was trying to find out where her older sister Siok Gong was. Hearing that, Siok Cho immediately drove to his younger sister's place. After picking up his younger sister, Siok Cho asked if it was okay for the two of them to go. Siok Cho said that he alone could take down that gambling den. When they arrived, Siok Cho said there was a guard sitting in a car in the basement. But what about the thugs inside? Siok Cho told his younger sister to lure the guy in the car out so he could go inside. When they got there, Siok Cho told the guy with the long hair that Miss Go had invited her and that she would come later, and she would go in first. This guy thought she was really eager, so he led Siok Cho inside. Just as they got to the door, Siok Cho rushed over and told him to report that two people would be coming down to play right now. So when the girl chimed, the sister was being caught by her two younger siblings. The two younger siblings looked gentle and obedient, but the older sister couldn't give up gambling. The thug Bong, not wanting his gambling den to be disturbed, stood up to stop Siok Cho. The owner here kept calling sister Siok Gong an ashtray, making the younger sister mad. The two lunged at each other, pulling hair and grabbing ears. The older brother Siok Cho didn't sit still and started to take action against the thugs here. "I'm flipping the table, you bastards." The woman was so angry that she threw an ashtray at Siok Cho. Siok Cho shouted, "You probably don't know what the Park family is like." Seeing his younger sister being pushed onto the table by that old woman, the older sister Siok Gong went crazy and straightforwardly flew to use the Iron Head skill, making the nasty old woman who hurt her younger sister fall down, unconscious immediately. "Now you look really cool." After doing that Iron Head move, Siok Cho let his sisters out quickly, locked the door, and threw the key in front of the door, as if to make the gangsters angry. Siok Cho said, "Thanks to you, we got to experience a more fun life." At Siok Gong's motel room, Siok Cho told her to pack up her stuff and quickly go home. Otherwise, she'd go home and rack up debts of 368 million won. Her younger sister Siok Cho saw a shirt that looked like a child's shirt and asked her sister what this was. Her sister said it was her son's shirt. Whenever she was sad, she put it on her face and remembered her son to relieve stress from life. Even though she wanted to hug her son every night, she was so degenerate now and didn't know how to act. When it came to causing trouble, Siok Gong was even more dominant than Siok Cho. Siok Gong used to be a hairstylist, and then she suddenly got pregnant. But the happiness lasted only one short year before she divorced her husband because he was cheating. Not only did she not get alimony, but she also had to pay hospital bills and became a single person. To relieve the feeling of loneliness, she went to gambling to relieve it. Currently, Siok Gong didn't dare to go home because her dad would hit her. She could only stay at her youngest sister Siok Cho's house. The next day when he woke up, Siok Cho received a "good luck" message from Miong. He was very happy to receive the good luck message. Miong was also secretly happy, going out to eat breakfast with a happy heart. Siok Cho asked his nephew if he wanted his mom to come back. He would bring his mom back to him, but he had to keep it a secret from his grandparents. The nephew obediently nodded his head. As for her sister Siok Gong, she didn't want to wake up because she had slept past noon. But hearing her younger sister say to go eat, she woke up. It's just that the house only had one dish, making her sister keep complaining and criticizing that the food had too much sugar. Her younger sister didn't care. Eating was good. She started lecturing and asked if she was going to let her child go to school without a mom and dad in their house. She wanted to take her child to school, but she was afraid of getting hit by her dad and running the fastest in the house. How could she face her dad's beatings? While they were eating, the gambling debt people called. Siok Cho advised her sister not to listen, but she still tried to listen. Siok Hui snatched the phone, telling the debt people to consider the gambling debt lost, and that if they tried to touch her sister, she would have them rot in jail. Get lost, you mutt, you tattered woman. Siok Gong was shocked to see that her younger sister's mouth was not to be trifled with. Her younger sister Siok Hui muttered, "Try to meet again and I'll butt you." Siok Gong said that not everyone was as hard-headed as she was and could butt people. Their head had to be hard and afraid of their dad's beatings to be able to butt people. But she tapped her head with her younger sister's head and saw that it was also hard, so she could probably use the iron head. These sisters were really humorous. As for Siok Cho, he was working with the bar area handling team to try to take over this area. Anyway, the company would have all kinds of compensation. However, the leader in this area was the chairman of the Tenants Housing Countermeasures Committee. As long as they caught that guy, the bar area would be taken care of in the blink of an eye. When Siok Cho and his gangster underlings arrived at the bar area, the police were preventing people from protesting the forced demolition of this residential area because of the ocean construction project. When he got down there, Siok Cho told his underlings not to make things tense, and that he alone would go inside. After arriving at the police, Siok Cho introduced himself as someone from the Miong construction company. Siok Cho's close friend asked, "You're planning to quit, but what are you doing here?" This was the last case Siok Cho had to do to be able to quit. His friend just needed to know that this was the last case. After Siok Cho met the leader to negotiate, the leader said the gangsters these days were intimidating politely. Siok Cho said he was negotiating, not intimidating. The leader still didn't seem to care about the words of gangsters like Siok Cho. After returning with his underlings, Siok Cho told one of them to return to the bar area right after lunch in case the police fought. The chairman there wasn't someone to be trifled with, so be careful. The gangster boss, Cheng Su, after hearing the news that Siok Cho was managing this case, called one of his underlings to take the opportunity to take care of Tae Hun. Last time they had to shake hands and reconcile, but in his heart, this boss still didn't want to be brothers with Tae Hun. Sister Siok Gong currently didn't have anything to do, so she could only eat, sleep, and rest at Siok Hui's house. Her younger sister would often call her to see if her sister had run away. "When I go outside, I'm chased by creditors. When I come home, I get hit by dad. Where can I go?" After determining that her sister was okay, Siok Hui went to meet her doctor boyfriend to invite him out to lunch. She told her boyfriend she would bring her sister home early, so please wait a little longer. While they were being lovey-dovey, a customer stopped by, making the two let go of their hands. The patient's mother came here to thank the doctor for treating her daughter's herniated disc so well last time. She also brought her second daughter to introduce her. She had just returned from the US and didn't have a boyfriend. She wondered if she could set her up with a doctor who was both talented and handsome. Dr. Jiang ummed and ahed while looking at Siok Hui and the person in front of him before saying he was still single. Messing with the Park family was about to be the end of you, doctor. Miong was currently continuing to work a part-time job at a restaurant, just to be able to earn enough nursing home fees for her mom. The nursing home kept sending messages, telling her to pay the nursing home fees, so Miong couldn't rest for a moment. Suddenly there was an advertisement about becoming a singer, and the first place prize would get money. Miong remembered how Siok Cho had encouraged her to be able to perform comfortably in front of everyone at the nursing home. She would probably register for this contest. In the afternoon, Sang Yeol, who was the head of a gangster group, came to the bar area to pressure the tenants. Hearing the information, Siok Cho immediately went there, and reporters were already waiting there from before. He rushed inside and asked his boss, Sang Yeol, "Just hand this over to me." He shouted in his boss's face, "If we keep doing this, everything will be ruined." Just as he finished speaking, the chairman who was leading this area started pouring gasoline to chase away the gangsters. He was so crazy that he even poured gasoline on himself. But what he didn't expect was that his daughter would appear and call out, "Dad, Daddy." He put down the lighter, but he also shouted, "Stop the forced demolition of this bar area." To break the lock and go find the chairman, Siok Cho had to ask his younger brother Duce Seek, who had been to jail many times for breaking into people's houses, to come along and break the lock. After fiddling with it for a while, he opened the lock. Siok Cho told his underlings to wait outside for him. After going inside, Siok Cho met the leader sitting there drinking alcohol. He wondered why he was able to get in here. Siok Cho said he just walked up and wanted to take this guy away. But no matter how much he tried to pull him, he wouldn't go and even wrestled Siok Cho down. The chairman started taking off his shirt and asked Siok Cho if he had ever heard of the Crazy Eyes, nickname of the Yoshi gang. Crazy Eyes wanted to test out the fists of gangsters like Siok Cho. He rushed up to punch him, but couldn't land a single punch, and Siok Cho was even giving him a chance. But he didn't know. He immediately cheated and got punched back by him. He continued to fight with Siok Cho and accidentally spilled the gasoline outside. The police and boss Sang Yeol outside were blaming each other, saying they didn't know what to tell the chairman if something happened to Siok Cho. But the chairman inside wasn't even able to touch a hair on him and was getting punched by Siok Cho. But he was laughing crazily. He felt he couldn't win, so he used a dirty trick and took out a lighter, making Siok Cho kick it away without thinking. It's just that the gasoline had been spilled, so Siok Cho wanted to pull him outside. The people outside saw smoke and ran inside to see what was happening. The chairman inside said for Siok Cho not to die and to leave. He didn't want to listen because his daughter was still alive. He had to survive and leave. After pulling the chairman outside, the scene of Siok Cho saving someone suddenly became a hot headline on the front page of the newspaper. His dad was so proud that he sat in front of his grandfather and said that his grandson became famous for saving people from the fire. Might as well enjoy the role of doing good. Siok Cho was suddenly glorifying his ancestors in a righteous way. Even Siok Hui was shocked to hear that she was in the newspaper because of saving people. It was really making these two old people proud. But his mom kept talking about how his dad and granddad were gangsters, and only the son was able to glorify the family a little. After eating, Siok Cho brought fruit to meet the chairman he had saved the day before, asking if he was okay. He even invited him to eat coffee candy, but he didn't say a word. But luckily, Siok Cho saved the chairman. He changed his mind because his daughter wanted to thank Siok Cho for saving her dad. He said to consider that he had heard it already and go home. The fact that Siok Cho was about to quit being a gangster made this chairman pretty surprised. But as someone who had made the decision like Siok Cho, he only advised him to be determined to quit being a thug, and not to be abandoned like he was, and have to lie here. Siok Cho, because of his good behavior and life-risking act, was also honored by his gangster boss, Chang Su, for his excellent performance in resolving that residential area. After the congratulations was the chairman giving him bonus money, Siok Cho happily accepted the money in front of his underlings. Along with it came a very expensive watch, making the underlings very excited and cheering. The gangster boss Tae-hun, not being able to get that bar area, felt very annoyed that Chang Su had Siok Cho helping him like that. But if you eat a piece, you have to pay a piece. Siok Cho's dad, because of his daughter's bank loan, went directly to the bank manager to try to negotiate if there was a way to extend the repayment period. The bank manager said cordially to the chairman that even if they extended it for another 5 years, it would be okay. But first, they had to pay part of the principal in order to get the extension. Otherwise, the appraisal department of the head office would have a hard time approving the extension of Siok Gong's loan. They had to pay back at least 70 million in principal to get the extension. The chairman's friend went crazy, saying they should have said they needed 70,000 from the beginning. The chairman couldn't hold it in anymore and stood up, his face very serious, making the bank manager a little scared. He asked, "When do I have to pay?" The bank manager initially planned to give him 2 weeks, but seeing the chairman's face looking so scary, he gave him a month to pay it all. But as soon as he went outside, an employee spilled coffee on the chairman, really messing up his cool look. He was tired because of his daughter borrowing money, and now he was suffering because of bad luck. His younger brother asked if he could handle it. Otherwise, he could sell his house to pay off the debt. Brothers were different, but the chairman didn't need to touch other people's houses. He dejectedly walked home and saw his wife and nephew playing in the yard. He didn't know if he had the face to see his wife and nephew anymore. Siok Cho, after finishing work, reported back to his boss that he had said he would quit. Looking at his boss's face, he could tell that Siok Cho quitting didn't seem very feasible, but he still had to accept it because Siok Cho's face was very serious. Chairman Tae-hun was going out to drink and negotiate with his friend about a business deal related to Chairman Chang Su. He just needed to seize the opportunity to overthrow him. This person saw that Tae-hun would stop at nothing to overthrow Chang Su. Miong, after deciding to participate in the audition, went to the registration place and asked the manager here if she could take a look around. Seeing everyone on stage performing confidently, Miong looked very nervous. She didn't know if she was still scared. On Siok Cho's side, suddenly his underling brought some high school kids to introduce to Siok Cho. One kid stood up and introduced himself, saying that he had cleaned up all the other thugs in this area. Siok Cho called these guys over and asked if any of them knew teacher Kim Gu. They all looked blank, and none of them knew that name. Siok Cho said that it wasn't a teacher at school, but someone who fought to reclaim the country when it was occupied by Japan. He made them go to the library and take out teacher Kim's book and read it from beginning to end. Then write a reflection and bring it here. Although they weren't very willing, They were underlings, so they listened obediently. It was just that Siok Cho wanted them to give up. He told his underling that if he ever brought guys like this to his face again, he would beat them up. They always had to be told twice to listen. Suddenly, the chairman came here to meet Chang Su. But Siok Cho curiously asked what his dad was doing and pulled him aside. His underlings knew what he meant and went outside. He asked if his dad had come here for money and if he could repay the money after borrowing it here. Siok Cho originally didn't want to be a thug, but his dad forced him. He had been frustrated about this for a long time. Now, even to borrow money, he had to come to these thugs. When the underling Chang Su saw the two fathers and sons here, he cordially invited both of them inside. But Siok Cho didn't want to see the scene of borrowing money from his dad. He hated that his dad had been a boss and had connections to the underworld, to the point of remembering the scene when he was in high school, and had been brought in front of that Chang Su, receiving money from him and bringing it back to his mom. But that was the money that Chang Su was supposed to pay Siok Cho's dad. But he wanted Chang Su to send it to him because it would make him feel better. Having once been a notorious boss and now having to come here to borrow money, Siok Cho couldn't bear the humiliation of being looked down upon by others, while his dad was the boss of these people. Luckily, when he met Chang Su, Siok Cho's dad didn't borrow money from him as he thought. Instead, he asked Chang Su to do him a favor, to take care of his son for him. Seeing his former senior's clothes were all dirty from coffee spills the day before, Chang Su took out an envelope, as if showing his sincerity, and told the chairman to use this money to buy some new clothes and eat something delicious. But he flatly refused and ran back home, making Chang Su a little stunned. As for his younger sister Siok Hui, at home, she was very sadly confiding in her older sister. Just because her boyfriend told someone else in front of her that he didn't have a girlfriend, her older sister only offered encouragement, but the encouragement felt like it was stabbing into her younger sister's pain. Siok Hui sadly ran into her room and hugged her pillow, looking very pitiful. Ever since Siok Cho's encouragement and help, Miong had gradually regained her confidence and started learning to sing again. Seeing his old love a little more confident than before, Siok Cho felt much relieved. Because Siok Cho didn't come home yesterday, his mom worriedly asked her husband, but he didn't know either. She called Siok Cho, and he said he was temporarily staying at a sauna because he had work. While she was at it, she also asked about his older sister's news. If she knew that her vengeful daughter had been brought back by the two brothers, she would have to beat her eldest child black and blue. She was truly a selfish person who left her young child for these two old people to take care of. After Siok Cho arrived at the company, his senior asked Siok Cho, "Your dad was here yesterday, huh?" Wondering why his senior knew, Siok Cho asked, "Did he do anything else besides coming here?" His senior then pulled out a stack of money, saying that Chang Su wanted to give him this, telling Siok Cho to buy his dad some new clothes to wear. But Siok Cho refused, telling him to return it to Chang Su. So his senior quickly accepted it. And his dad, at this time, was sitting with his younger brother Yi, talking about the old days, when Siok Cho was still in school and always met him with a tearful face. At that time, he was still a gangster, and Siok Cho didn't want his dad to keep being involved in those things. Now he remembered. Siok Cho had grown up so much, and he didn't even know if he had the courage to sit down and talk to his son. Mr. Yi advised him, "If you have a chance, just sit down and talk to your son honestly. There's nothing to worry about." His older sister, Siok Gong, having been confined in her younger sister's house for a while, couldn't stand it anymore. She put on a disguise and secretly ran out to see her son. Seeing her son still playing happily and growing up healthy, only getting one shot, but his sister acted like she was a kidnapper. On the way back, his sister kept following, making his son Honggan think she was his mom. He immediately turned around and chased after her, making Siok Gong run like crazy, as if she was being chased by a ghost. But at one point, afraid her son would be in danger, Siok Gong stopped him. Honggan asked if she was his mom, why she knew his name, and then started crying. She wanted to hide it from her son, but Siok Gong was incredibly weak. "Mommy misses you so much, but don't tell Grandma and Grandpa that Mommy is here, or they'll break Mommy's legs when I get home. It's true that you have the guts to play, but not the guts to take a beating." When he left, her son didn't forget to say goodbye to his mom. Meanwhile, Siok Cho was with his senior from the company, surveying a new construction site. It could be said that if this area succeeded, it would bring in 3 times the profit of the bar area Siok Cho had to deal with last time. Knowing that the profit of this area was also greater, Siok Cho offered to ask his senior if he could borrow money. His senior thought it was simple, but when he heard the amount of 100 million won, his senior wondered, "What are you doing that you need so much money?" Siok Cho couldn't say he was using the money to pay his sister's debt, so he only said it was a personal matter, and his younger sister Siok Cho was still angry with her boyfriend. After examining a patient, he still tried to explain in front of his close client, who also brought her daughter. Ji Hong said he only had to say he was single to keep the client. Just hearing that, she knew it was the words of some scoundrel. Siok Cho angrily told him to eat a lot by himself later. So angry at her boyfriend, Siok Cho went and told a patient not to play Huatu cards anymore. Outside the hospital gate, the underground gambling den boss led two underlings, one bald, one with full hair, and came here to cause trouble. They went to the woman from earlier and asked about Siok Gong's whereabouts, then forced her to be discharged from the hospital. While the nurse tried to stop them, but because they were gangsters, the nurse friend rushed outside to call Siok Hee, and saw these people causing chaos in the hospital. That crooked neck woman must not have gotten enough of the iron head last time. Now she brought two underlings, and they also recognized that the small person in front of them was the one who destroyed their gambling den. Siok Cho's boyfriend heard the noise and went outside to see. Seeing the thugs in front of him, he acted like he was protecting his girlfriend. Before he could do anything, he was thrown into a corner like an animal. And that bald guy who was tired of living ran into the wrong person, running straight into his younger sister Siok Cho, who had a hard head. She used her power and hit these two guys so hard that they had to go to the maxillofacial trauma department. That woman remembered being headbutted once and was scared. The security guards quickly arrived and quelled the chaos, dragging the three thugs away. A little later, Siok Cho sat down with her boyfriend. Ji Hong asked her if it hurt much when she headbutted that person earlier. But after feeling her head, Ji Hong had to admit that Siok Cho's head was as hard as a rock. Siok Cho still tried to hold on, telling Ji Hong not to lie to her. He smoothly said that the hospital director's daughter was no match for Siok Cho. She was easily swayed by these sweet words and trusted him more. Siok Cho's senior went to meet Chairman Chang Su and told him that his junior, Siok Cho, needed money. He was curious how much money Siok Cho intended to borrow. Chang Su didn't think much and told his junior to just give him 100. He couldn't let Siok Cho leave because of money like that Tae-hun guy. Chang Su didn't want Siok Cho to betray him like the underling, who used to work with him, and Siok Cho's dad. Meanwhile, that Tae-hun received news from his underling that all the goods were ready. He was curious and asked if Tae-hun should also deal with Siok Cho. Tae-hun told his underling to only do the work he was assigned. But thinking about Siok Cho, Tae-hun couldn't help but ponder a little. Before, at his sister's funeral, his uncle Siok Cho had stopped by to pay his respects and comfort him. But Tae-hun hated Chang Su deeply, because at that time, Tae-hun needed 30 million won for his sister's surgery, and Chang Su hadn't lent him the money. So, their conflict began to crack wider at this point. As for the condolence money Chang Su wanted to offer, Tae-hun didn't want a single penny, because if these people truly cared about him, they would have lent him 30 million won to save his sister, instead of waiting until she passed away to come and pay their respects like this. In the end, only Siok Cho stayed, telling Tae-hun that he did well, and if he felt relieved, just do it. Seeing his junior still by his side until the end, Tae-hun was very grateful, basically because he also cared for his younger sister Siok Cho, so Siok Cho was just doing the same. Tae-hun wanted to quit this business and wanted Siok Cho to follow him, but at that time, it was a very difficult choice for Siok Cho. Siok Cho, after calling his senior, received the news that he was lent 100,000 and immediately hung up, making his senior feel that this junior, after hearing about the money, didn't even bother to listen to his phone anymore. Miong was currently in an audition at a small singing venue. The judges were a bit strict, wanting her to sit on the stage while singing, but Miong preferred to play and sing. At first, they were strict, but after hearing Miong sing, their attitudes and everyone in the room suddenly changed completely. But at the end, he was still strict and called the next person up, causing a conflict among the judges just because he was too biased. It turned out that the bald guy was the manager here, and he directly eliminated Miong. After going outside, Miong was curious why others sang off-key but were accepted while she did quite well. He immediately criticized her for being too melodramatic, and didn't let her explain or have a chance, just chasing Miong out. So her only job left was at the cafe. She met Siok Cho and talked about her upcoming dream of earning a lot of money to bring her mom home from the nursing home. Miong also sadly told Siok Cho that this time she was more confident than last time, but she failed the audition again. The reason was very simple: he would only recruit people with money or connections. So no matter how talented Miong was, he wouldn't accept her. To help Miong, Siok Cho asked her where she auditioned. then started calling his underlings to ask about the location of the singing bar. His underlings said that place was Tae-hun's territory, and the owner was Tae-hun's cousin. It was the biggest and busiest place in the area, not to mention the singers there became famous online. So, to see what was going on, Siok Cho went to that singing bar and negotiated with the manager, allowing Miong to show her abilities in front of him again. Siok Cho showed his sincerity and flattered him a little. He needed a little something to grease the wheels. Just one bill would do. Siok Cho didn't hear clearly and asked him how much he needed to grease the wheels to get into the next round. He leaned in close, then suddenly got slammed down onto the table like a piece of chess. So, he had taken a bribe. Grease the wheels to let someone else in and eliminate Miong? Luckily, another senior came here, and this manager became scared and more timid than before. With permission from the long-haired guy, the manager immediately obeyed and let Miong pass. Siok Cho was curious if she sang well. The manager truthfully said she was the best singer there. Since they had finished talking, Siok Cho intended to leave. The underling wanted to reminisce a bit, but Siok Cho still didn't want to. Just like that, Miong was successfully allowed to sing at the famous singing bar Nirvana, directly receiving an invitation to sing at 7 p.m. that very day. After helping Miong, Siok Cho went to meet his friends to relax a bit and revealed that he had a girlfriend recently. His friends' faces went blank. They didn't know how the two could have met again. Siok Cho talked about Miong very excitedly, even saying she was about to become famous. Suddenly, Siok Cho received a call from Miong. She excitedly talked about being accepted to sing at Nirvana, asking if Siok Cho could come today. Ever since he was by her side, it felt like everything was going smoothly. So that evening, Siok Cho went to the singing bar, as Miong had arranged, and waited to watch her perform. The sound of her singing and piano began to resonate. Her beauty and gentle, melodious voice quickly captured Siok Cho's soul. Looking around, not only him but also others were drawn to her. It was certainly worth him asking for help for her. Meanwhile, Chairman Chang Su took a pile of money and went to meet Section Chief Wang, preparing to discuss some business. But as they were about to eat and talk business, suddenly some unidentified people walked into the room. Siok Cho's underling immediately called to report that the police wanted to raid the office. He had to run first, not understanding what was happening. His senior Sang Yeo called Siok Cho to let him know that he and the chairman were at the police station to talk. Coincidentally, Tae-hun was at this singing bar, and he recognized that the person playing the piano outside was the girl he had met before at his own place. Tae-hun went out to the lobby to enjoy it and asked the manager what her name was. He had to admit her voice had something captivating. She wasn't someone who should be in a place like this. Meanwhile, Siok Cho rushed to the police station. Chairman Chang Su had been arrested for drug-related charges, and sure enough, the police found a quantity in Chang Su's car trunk. Finding the drugs and calling the police was Tae-hun's trick, but his senior Sang Yeo didn't know how to handle this case, because he didn't know who had hidden the drugs in the car. Siok Cho said he would investigate. After enjoying Miong's performance, Tae-hun was deeply moved and called his underling, telling him to put money in an envelope and give it to her, and while he was at it, to change her working hours. After his shift, the manager directly handed Miong the envelope Tae-hun had told him to prepare beforehand, praising her for working hard and saying that the chairman had specially given it to her. However, there was something she should know. The chairman wanted Miong to perform on the main stage next time, not in a corner of this small singing bar. Miong, hearing that, couldn't hide her joy. She called Siok Cho to tell him that she had done very well today and that she was no longer afraid to sing in front of people. This news was truly too good for Siok Cho. He even remembered to tell her to be careful on her way home and to talk to him later. After returning home, Siok Cho directly spoke with his dad, telling him that he was quitting this protection business. Seeing his dad not say anything, Siok Cho wondered, "Dad, you can't just say quitting is the right thing to do? Have I worked hard?" Indeed, the relationship between father and son had never been truly good since his dad made Siok Cho become a thug. The next day, his dad's underling came to the house to check on the broken faucet. Now seeing his face happier than usual, his junior Dae-yi asked him if he had won the lottery. If he liked Siok Cho leaving that area so much, he should have said so sooner. He was just afraid he didn't have the right to say that to his son. Luckily, he had quit being a thug, so he was less worried. His junior Dae-yi wondered, if he quit his job, what is he doing now? He didn't care. As long as he wasn't involved with thugs anymore, he was happy. Siok Cho, before quitting, was still assigned the task of finding out why there were drugs in Chang Su's car. As soon as he went outside, he immediately ran into the high school student from last time, the one his underling brought. He actually read the 10-page eulogy and wrote a reflection on teacher Kim Gu. then submitted it to Siok Cho. This kid believed that if he actually carried it out, he would be accepted as an underling. Siok Cho asked him if he was good at studying, then told this kid Gu Siok to achieve top 10 in academics in his school. He said he would consider it, but in reality, it was to make the kid realize it was too hard and give up. Meanwhile, at Siok Hui's house, her older sister Siok Gong was sleeping in. When there was a knock at the door outside, she immediately ran out, because the knocking outside seemed urgent. Siok Gong worriedly asked who was outside. The person outside said, "I know a lot about you," thinking it was a debt collector. It turned out to be the younger guy who used to consider her his first love. Bong Su, Siok Cho's friend. Siok Gong was also curious if she was truly this guy's first love. Even now that Siok Gong was a mother, this guy still liked her. Bong Su didn't think he could be this loyal. A woman with one child is stunning, they say. Knowing that her sister was having difficulties, this guy took the opportunity to ask her if he helped her with a problem, would she grant him a request. He then hooked pinkies with his sister. Siok Gong drank all her water and just left. Siok Gong didn't understand what was wrong with this guy. But why was her heart beating so fast? Ever since being accused of drug use, Tae-hun was incredibly happy, because his disliked rival had to go to court. Right now, Tae-hun wanted to get that bar area back at all costs. Tae-hun's underlings had just gone outside the door. His underling Dabong was sent away first, while John Ho was held back by the eldest brother. He asked John Ho to tell him one thing before doing anything. No matter what the chairman said, he had to tell him first. Just then Siok Cho called. This underling said that he was busy today, and couldn't meet Siok Cho immediately. And Chairman Tae-hun had found information about the girl Miong at the singing room. It felt like Tae-hun had secretly fallen for this simple girl. Because she had money from the singing bar, Miong was also able to pay back her close friend. Siok Hui was curious if the two had rekindled their old romance. Siok Hui suddenly brought up the old days, saying that from the moment Miong left, Siok Cho wasn't going to quit school but was actually expelled. Siok Hui asked Miong if she remembered the Sungpo school thugs. Siok Cho went all the way to that thug school and smashed things up and fought wildly, to the point of almost being sent to a reformatory. Hearing this news immediately, Miong felt a little stunned, because that year, she was the one who was bullied, and had her clothes stripped off on video by the people around her. She was so tortured that she didn't dare to go home, even though Siok Cho waited outside her door. She then realized that because of her, he had to quit school, just because he beat up those thugs. So Miong called Siok Cho, asking him to meet her privately and tell her things she didn't know. Things that happened to Siok Cho after she left. He listened and understood what Miong was talking about, because at that time, Siok Cho had also run to Miong's house, looking for her everywhere. But Miong had already moved. That's why Siok Cho went to Sungpo school and caused such a ruckus. And his friend Bong Su came to the hospital, where Siok Hui worked, and called her to ask for her help with some things. So Siok Hui, along with her boyfriend and Bong Su, went to the surveillance room to watch the video from the last time those thugs came and fought with Siok Hui. The girl then wondered, why does this police officer suddenly want to arrest these guys? So Bong Su said, from now on, if it's anything related to Siok Hui, just call me. With this triumphant look, Mr. Bong Su wanted to get justice for his queen, unlike that doctor. Siok Hui looked at this guy as if he were her own brother. Meanwhile, Siok Gong didn't want to stay still and ran out to buy some things, but she was recognized by someone from the casino. So the two played a marathon in the neighborhood. After running for a bit, Siok Gong ran like an athlete, and in a short time, she was gone. Tae-hun's underling came to meet Siok Cho. Seeing such a remorseful look, Siok Cho immediately knew that Tae-hun had done something to Chang Su. So he ignored the underling who had gone to the trouble of coming, and didn't say a word to him. Bak Cheon wanted to explain and settle things, but Siok Cho just got in his car and sped off, heading straight to Tae-hun's company to ask what was going on. Tae-hun's younger brother and other underlings stood in the way and asked, since when is the chairman your older brother? He just wanted to talk for a bit, but these guys kept wanting Siok Cho to use his hands and feet. I don't want to fight, but if I really fight, heads will break. Luckily, Bak Cheon appeared and stopped both sides. Siok Cho just wanted to meet the chairman for a moment, but that John Ho kept threatening to pull out a weapon. Seeing Siok Cho's tense expression, Tae-hun said, relax your face. Siok Cho wanted Tae-hun to apologize to Chang Su and stop this. But how could Tae-hun let it go when Chang Su was the one who kicked him out of the gang? Tae-hun actually liked his junior Siok Cho, so he invited him out for a drink and didn't talk about this case anymore. Siok Cho didn't want Tae-hun to be like this. He just wanted his boss to stop. Tae-hun told him that before she passed away, His late younger sister also wanted him to live as a good person. But Chang Su and that Sang Yeol kept wanting to crush Tae-hun. Who would let him be a good person here? So Siok Cho went home and talked to his senior Sang Yeol, telling him to go make peace with Tae-hun. How could two factions who hated each other sit at the same table? Suddenly, outside, some underlings were fighting. Siok Cho immediately called the two underlings, who didn't know their place aside. He found out that Duce Seek had been drinking lately and going around extorting money from the Yosu gang. So Siok Cho told his underling Yosu to go outside first, leaving Duce Seek. And outside, another underling was bringing some stuff back to Sang Yeol. His senior asked this kid where he had been hiding all this time. The underling gave Sang Yeol some bread and asked if Duce Seek had been causing trouble recently. He thought this underling was back for something else, but it turned out he was demanding rights. He said that Tae-hun's side only let their underlings work for 5 days, while their side was working too much. Sang Yeol immediately kicked him out, saying, "If you want to go work over there, fine. You don't need to come back here." There truly wasn't a single decent underling. His underling Duce Seek got a whipping, and Siok Cho warned, "If I see you gambling again, watch out." But that look didn't show any remorse. It clearly wanted to kill someone. Siok Cho remembered seeing his underling before. He admitted he was pitiful and sat in a corner, but no one had money to lend him. So Siok Cho decided to take out some of his own money, telling Duce Seek to quit gambling early, because his stupid face showed everything. Siok Cho warned that if he saw him gambling again from now on, he shouldn't expect to see his boss again. Bong Su came to Siok Gong's house, asking if she had eaten anything, but she looked very bored and didn't want to eat anything. Bong Su said he was buying food, but he was actually standing downstairs. Sister Siok Gong, who was always gambling, now anxiously told him not to come upstairs quickly. She was probably trying to put on makeup and make herself look younger. Accidentally, Bong Su ran into the punk who had chased Siok Gong. He even walked up and asked Bong Su if he knew this person. Bong Su praised her. "She's so beautiful, or is it just my eyes that think she's pretty?" The guy from the casino asked Bong Su if he knew where this woman was. "You met the right person today. Remember to send me that picture later." As soon as the long-haired guy got into the car, he was immediately handcuffed. "Who are you looking for? You're finished. You found my girlfriend, you old hag?" Siok Gong was just putting on makeup when she received the message. "I have to go now." She didn't know what she was waiting for anymore. Chang Su, after some time, was released on bail from the police station. He asked his two underlings if they had found out who had falsely accused him of drug use. Sang Yeol strongly suspected Tae-hun did it. Now it was just a matter of figuring out how to deal with him. Bong Su, after bringing the long-haired guy to that casino, heard that the thugs here were looking for his first love. When asked who it was, Bong Su held out his part-time job ID card, so these people weren't too scared. Only when he showed the silver badge did these people get scared. Bong Su said, "I'm doing all of this for love, you know, for love. This heart full of love will give you a chance. From now on, don't contact Siok Gong anymore. And you guys here too. If Siok Gong appears here, Bong Su will also arrest these guys for enticing minors to gamble." Only then did these people get scared and not dare to touch Siok Gong anymore. After returning to base, Sang Yeol told Siok Cho to wait there and prepare to buy some snacks. And tonight, Miong had a performance, so he could only text her a message wishing her good luck. He would probably be a little late. Ever since he went to jail, the company Osun, which handled the bar area, blocked Chang Su's contact number. His junior Sang Yeol called and called, but only received a message that they would no longer cooperate, because Chang Su was involved in drugs. He knew that this Tae-hun guy was trying to take over his territory. So he immediately told Sang Yeol that one of the two had to disappear. The first person Chang Su thought of to handle this was Siok Cho. So Sang Yeol immediately called Siok Cho in, even though he was eager to go meet Miong. Chang Su directly asked Siok Cho how far he was willing to go for him. Siok Cho didn't know what Chang Su was talking about. He then pulled out his knife, making Siok Cho feel that something bad was coming. Chang Su wanted to finish off his old brother, making Siok Cho have to quietly finish off Tae-hun, which made him very awkward. As for Miong, after finishing her shift, she was called back by the manager. He told her that Chairman Tae-hun, who owned this concert hall, wanted her to sing a song for him. He really appreciated her, but Miong was very worried and a little scared. To continue working, she summoned all her courage and went inside, but standing in front of Tae-hun, she still didn't dare to interact with him at all. Tae-hun introduced himself as the owner of this concert hall, and also a big fan and subscriber of her Little Singing Room channel. Hearing this, Miong finally gained the courage to sit down and listen to Tae-hun talk. He talked about some wealthy family that often invested in artists to become famous. He believed that talented people also had to have money to be considered art. To put it bluntly, Tae-hun wanted to invest in Miong and also wanted to get closer to her. Tae-hun asked if he could hear her play and sing a private song. Miong was a little tense, but she started to sit at the piano and play and sing. Tae-hun's expression was incredibly enjoying. He had probably fallen in love with her. After she finished playing, Tae-hun said her singing voice was truly captivating and wanted to invite Miong for a drink. As soon as she refused, she was held back. Miong's constant hesitation made Tae-hun annoyed, just because he acted like a ruffian. Miong then refused, saying she already had a boyfriend. Seeing Miong's boyfriend kept calling, Tae-hun ordered his underling to turn off the phone. Outside, Siok Cho had arrived early to pick up his girlfriend because he couldn't reach Miong. The underlings, seeing Siok Cho, lied that she had finished her shift and left a long time ago. And the manager, scared, hid under the table. He pretended to look for a cigarette to deflect and didn't answer Siok Cho's question. Tae-hun started pulling out a large stack of money, wanting Miong to come see him like this occasionally and sing privately. The money in front of her was considered payment, and there would be more later. But Miong was not someone who could be bought with money. She flatly refused. When she tried to leave, his underling John Ho stopped her. Tae-hun also didn't make things difficult for the person he liked, and told his underling to let Miong leave. On the way back, feeling incredibly small in this world, Miong couldn't hold back her tears. When she arrived, she saw Siok Cho had been waiting for her there the whole time. She quickly ran to him and hugged Siok Cho. "It's so good that you're here." Siok Cho didn't quite understand what was happening, but seeing himself as a solid support for his girlfriend also made him happy. He remembered that year, when Siok Cho went to Miong's school to deal with the bullies who tormented her. One by one, he beat them half to death, and smashed all the phones that dared to record Miong's clothes being stripped off. Because of that, Siok Cho was called to the dean's office. The teacher told him that if he didn't explain the reason, the other side would sue, and his life would be ruined. Siok Cho at that time didn't care what happened to his life, even if it meant going to a reformatory. As long as someone touched the person he loved, he would do anything, no matter the cost. The next day, at Siok Hui's house, seeing his sister lying there so lazily, Siok Hui was incredibly annoyed. She asked, "Aren't you going home to visit your son? Or are you going to wait until you're in court to visit him?" Siok Gong wanted to do many things, but because Siok Hui didn't believe her, she didn't dare to say anything. She told her sister, "How about I go back to that casino? Now I won't gamble anymore, but I'll pawn documents for others. Borrowing money like that is very profitable." Siok Hui didn't agree, because earning money that way wasn't worth it at all. Not knowing how to earn money, the casino owner suddenly texted Siok Gong, "From now on, I won't contact you anymore. You also have nothing to do with that casino anymore." Then a message came from her brother's best friend. "Have a wonderful day." Bong Su sent that exact message and laughed happily like he was crazy. His mood was better than usual. Upon returning to the company, Chang Su called Siok Cho in to plan and open a new bottle of wine. He intended to open it after he dealt with Tae-hun, but now Chang Su wanted to open it first, to warm up their brotherhood, and see Siok Cho's attitude towards him through the glass of wine. Knowing that Tae-hun and Chang Su were constantly fighting, Siok Cho told him that he couldn't carry out the elimination of Tae-hun. Chang Su looked at Siok Cho with extreme annoyance and kicked him out. Immediately, Sang Yeo also asked to follow behind to comfort Siok Cho. He asked, "Is our junior really going to keep standing in the middle like this? The 100 million won you wanted to borrow is gone, understand?" Siok Cho wondered why. Sang Yeo then said that the bar area had been stolen by Tae-hun. There was no money left for him to borrow. That's why the chairman wanted Siok Cho to deal with Tae-hun. Siok Cho couldn't do such a thing. He angrily started smashing things around and left. Miong, on her way to her mom's nursing home, received a call from the theater manager, telling her that she had performed very well yesterday, and that he wanted Miong to come work there as soon as possible. But because of Tae-hun's behavior yesterday, Miong flatly refused and would not go there to work anymore. Tae-hun felt that the harder something was to get, the more interested he became. At the nursing home, Miong no longer had stage fright and was very sociable with everyone. His underling John Ho at the company talked to his senior Bak Cheon, saying that Tae-hun had called the singer from the singing room into a private room. Bak Cheon was curious who that person was that interested the chairman so much. Hearing the name Miong made Bak Cheon feel uneasy, so he went in to talk to Tae-hun about this. Tae-hun saw his underling come in and talk about that singer having a boyfriend. He didn't care much because he could steal anyone. But hearing Miong's boyfriend's name was Siok Cho, now he was like cow, even interested in his underling's girlfriend. At the hospital, Siok Hui called in the next patient for examination. But this guy, as soon as he saw Siok Hui, seemed to be struck by love at first sight with her. He looked at Siok Hui for a while until she called him, then he woke up. After that, he went inside to be examined for herniated areas. It seemed this guy was very passionate about strenuous sports, and had even undergone cruciate ligament surgery before, so he needed long-term treatment. Hearing that, the patient Jong Hyuk didn't even seem bothered. In fact, he was excited and turned to praise Siok Hui in front of her boyfriend, saying that a friendly nurse like her probably made frequent hospital visits a good thing. Seeing someone else constantly looking at his girlfriend, Ji Hong started to feel jealous. He immediately told the patient to leave early, because the examination was finished. Unexpectedly, this patient even wanted to gallantly open the door for Siok Hui. As soon as he went outside, he wanted to meet her again, and praised her beauty. Siok Hui also felt very happy that this person, even though young, already knew how to distinguish pretty girls. Her boyfriend probably just now realized how she felt jealous before, when Ji Hong said that he and Siok Hui were just friends. It's true that he was a scoundrel who flirted. Siok Hui said, "I'm really beautiful and jealous, but there's nothing I can do." As Siok Hui went to her boyfriend's desk to tidy it up, she found a concert ticket. Ji Hong had just gone to the restroom. He suddenly remembered that he couldn't let Siok Hui see that ticket. He rushed back to the room to check, and Siok Hui opened the door from outside, startling him. Seeing his worried and hurried expression, Siok Hui couldn't help but suspect that her boyfriend was hiding something from her. As for her older sister Siok Gong, she received good news from Bong Su. If she ever saw anyone related to the casino, she should just tell him, and he would protect her. Siok Gong had to admit that ever since this guy appeared, those other guys no longer came looking for her. But hearing that Bong Su was outside her house, Siok Gong rushed out to see if it was really him. She asked why Bong Su was so good to her. "What else but my great, long-lasting love for you?" Siok Gong listened, acted as if nothing happened. But when she went inside, she felt a slight flutter in her chest. During lunch with her boyfriend, Siok Hui subtly asked if he was busy on the 28th, saying she wanted to go on a trip with him. Ji Hong immediately agreed without hesitation, making Siok Hui think she was the only one in his heart. But a moment later, he said he was busy because he had a class reunion with friends. He was truly a scoundrel, probably cheating on her with someone else, so he wasn't telling the truth. Siok Cho, because he had no money at the company, brought his pay stub to the bank to ask if he could get a loan. However, he didn't have social security to match, so the loan failed. As soon as he went outside feeling sad, he saw everyone gathered in one place. Siok Cho went over to see and saw Miong happily playing and singing with her friend there. Siok Cho's heart suddenly felt much lighter. Not to mention, everyone was very responsive, and most importantly, she was no longer afraid to sing in front of others. After singing, Siok Cho sighed with Miong. "Singing outdoors is definitely much better, huh?" Miong also expressed that she wouldn't go to that concert hall anymore. She wanted to go somewhere else for a better experience. Although she didn't have other things, she was sure that with effort, she would succeed. Siok Cho, seeing his girlfriend so capable, couldn't help but pat her head to comfort her. "It's a good thing you're here with me." Hearing that, Miong knew her boyfriend was stressed, and kissed Siok Cho a few times. But their affection was completely captured by a paparazzi. At Siok Cho's house, Siok Hui came to meet his dad to talk about something. In the past, whenever there was an awkward decision that would lead to regret, Chang Su would follow the chairman's words and come here to meet him, asking for his opinion on how to proceed. Now Chang Su could no longer be patient, so the chairman called Tae-hun, thinking he would have to talk to someone. Chang Su answered Tae-hun's call, and the situation suddenly became tenser than ever. And Siok Cho, who was enjoying a happy date with his girlfriend, received a call from Chang Su, telling him he had to go meet Tae-hun. "I've already discussed everything with your dad, so go to the meeting point right now." Siok Cho apologized to Miong because he had to leave first. She was a little worried. Siok Cho said that after this, he would definitely quit. At the spicy stir-fried noodle shop that night, the two chairmen sat together, couldn't help but reminisce about old memories. Chang Su went straight to the point. He didn't want to fight with his junior anymore, and told Tae-hun to make peace. But looking at Sang Yeol below, Tae-hun couldn't help but want to pick a fight with him. Sang Yeol was about to stand up and throw some punches. But since it was a serious matter today, Chang Su only wanted to negotiate peacefully. He wanted to ask Tae-hun one last time. He poured his junior a drink, and then considered them brothers again. He had already extended his hand. Tae-hun held the glass of alcohol in his hand, and looked at Siok Cho. Then he took a big gulp of half the drink and started to stand up. Siok Cho sighed in relief, but then was surprised because Taehyun spat out all the alcohol. If you're going to say words of forgiveness, at least buy some Western liquor. Drinking soju only makes me crazy and remember the old days. Chang Su was the one who caused the conflict. Chang Su, as soon as he stood up, had a knife pointed at him. Taehyun never expected this senior to be even crazier. He said, "Go ahead. If you swing that knife around, you're done for." Siok Cho had to step in to stop them. Taehyun then put his weapon away. That's enough. Chang Su had never met anyone who insulted him so much since the day he was born. He made Sang Yil find someone who was willing to do anything for money. The goal was to eliminate Taehyun out of sight. So Sang Yil went to find Duce Seek and called him aside to talk. The next day at poetry class, Siok Cho kept thinking about the scene from last night between his two seniors. When everyone left, Siok Cho slowly packed his things. Miong texted, sending a new song she composed herself, which lifted Siok Cho's spirits and made him feel a bit better. After talking for a while, Siok Cho also complimented Miong's song, saying it was really good. She was as happy as a child, saying that the lyrics of the song were composed by Siok Cho himself, from a letter Siok Cho had written to her in the past. She had been inspired by that letter to write this song. No wonder Siok Cho found it both sappy and familiar. As soon as he reached the door, he saw his girlfriend who had come to meet him. She didn't think Siok Cho would be at a poetry place like this. Siok Cho told Miong not to tell anyone, as it would be strange for a gangster to be doing poetry, and it was already time for Miong to go to work. The two said goodbye while encouraging each other to do their best. Chang Su asked Sang Yil if he had found the person yet. Someone had stepped forward and agreed to eliminate Taehyun, but Chang Su wanted that person to act immediately, because he didn't want to wait anymore. He told Sang Yil to hurry up. Taehyun, at the funeral home, stood in front of his sister and apologized for not being able to become the good person she wanted him to be. Back then, Taehyun was incredibly innocent and loved life, having a very cute younger sister who always used him as a model for her paintings. Seeing her brother always smiling happily in front of her, she advised Taehyun to live a good and happy life like this. Indeed, that memory always warmed Taehyun's heart whenever he thought about it. As soon as he got back to work, Siok Hui called Siok Cho to report that their eldest sister wanted to go back to the casino again. Yesterday, she even demanded to work as a pawnshop guard and stuff. Siok Hui had a plan that would make Siok Gong unable to run away anymore, which was to make her eldest sister fall in love. The weapon the two had was their friend Bong Su. At this moment, Siok Gong was dreaming that she appeared with a fresh look at home, meeting her adorable son and biological mother, looking quite happy. But her dad appeared with a grim face. Having lived to be 40 years old, this was probably the first person who was still so afraid of being beaten by her dad. Luckily, it was just a dream. Siok Gong was woken up by a phone call. She answered the phone, and her younger sister said that Siok Gong should prepare to bring her son to see her. In the desk drawer, there were some bills for her to take with her to meet her son. With the mindset of missing her son, Siok Gong was also very much looking forward to it. Siok Chol went home to pick up his nephew. Honggan was happy today because he got to go out and play. He asked Siok Chol to pick him up and play airplane, then they set off to play. When they arrived at his younger sister's house, Honggan was surprised that he got to play with his mom today. He had missed his mom for too long. Indeed, his younger sister's plan was effective. In contrast, Siok Hui was still constantly suspicious of her boyfriend. She went back to her room to check the calendar, and only saw that Ji Hong had written, "Class reunion," on the 28th. She was about to open the ticket when Ji Hong returned. Seeing her boyfriend so nonchalant, Siok Hui's heart couldn't settle down for a second. "You're really excited, huh? You'll see what happens when I catch you." As soon as she went outside, a nurse called Siok Hui. The herniated disc patient Yong Nim wanted to see her. Seeing this woman's face, Siok Hui, who was angry with her boyfriend, started arguing with her. "If you're uncomfortable, should I give you a few injections?" Then she left immediately. The woman suddenly became a victim of displaced anger. No one was as miserable as her. Siok Chol's parents at home were cleaning the garden together when they received a letter from the bank. The bank would repossess the property to cover the debt that his eldest daughter Siok Gong had accrued. His wife asked, but he didn't say, saying it was just Siok Chol's stuff. As for Miong, after her piano teaching shift, she received a call from XN Entertainment Company, saying they wanted to meet to negotiate with Miong about becoming a singer. Meanwhile, at Taehyun's company, his underlings brought a list of businesses that collected money this month to report. Taehyun noticed a place that wasn't collecting money and asked Bak Cheon. He said that place couldn't collect, because it was Chang Su's territory. That place was also about to collapse, so he didn't pay attention to it. Seeing Hun's serious expression, Bok Cheon immediately apologized, and Tae-hun told his underlings to go there to collect money and trample on Chang Su's pride. The underlings immediately left after receiving the order, and Siok Cho, to make his sister fall in love, invited Bong Su to hang out with him and his sister to be a love bridge for the two of them. After playing, Bong Su even took the initiative to buy 2 cotton candies to give to the mother and daughter. Siok Gong worriedly said that she didn't want to eat, and he should eat it. Bong Su, with his great love, said they could both eat it. Siok Chol also told his sister to eat it, rather than watch a dark-skinned guy eat alone. Then he called Bong Su aside. "My sister is in your hands now, my childhood friend." The three of them just had fun. Bong Su could do this, and he was with the person he had liked for a long time. Just as they were about to leave, Sang Yeo called Siok Chol to tell him that there was some conflict at the Jeondong nightclub, and wanted Siok Chol to go check it out. When Siok Chol arrived, he only saw his underlings and Tae-hun's people standing outside the door. He then told Bok Cheon to come closer. "I won't hit you. Why are your guys interested in this nightclub that's about to collapse?" Bok Cheon was also very awkward, but because it was the chairman's will, the long-haired underling could only obey. Siok Chol realized that Tae-hun wanted to start a war over this, and told his underling Bok Cheon, "Your boss has made my life complicated, but go tell him not to cause trouble anymore. Tell him exactly what I told you." Bok Cheon then led his underlings away. He already had no money, and now he was tired of these thugs. Downstairs, Siok Chol told his underlings to quickly get the business going. The long-bearded, long-haired guy told Bok Cheon that Duce Seek hadn't shown up all day, and Duce Seek was still up to his old tricks, borrowing money everywhere, and lying around in the black and red casino all day, to the point of almost getting beaten up. Luckily, Siok Chol appeared to protect him, and Duce Seek just ran outside. Now Siok Chol had to worry about this troublesome underling again. Duce Seek ran around everywhere, and somehow fell down and got caught. Luckily, Siok Chol appeared just in time with his car. Duce Seek jumped in, and was able to escape from the debt collectors. After saving his underling, Siok Chol asked, "You're a gangster, don't you have any self-respect?" Fed up with this guy borrowing money, Siok Chol kicked him out of the car and just sped off. As for Miong, after her shift, she went to meet the manager of the XN Entertainment Company as arranged to talk about work. When asked if Miong was also composing music, the company said they were looking for talented artists, or singers like Miong, to help her become a real singer through a transparent working contract. Miong was about to debut as a singer, which surprised her greatly because she didn't think she was that lucky. Siok Chol went home, and reported to Sang Yeo that Tae-hun's people dared to come here, and cause trouble again. Sang Yeo thought that the two sides definitely couldn't make peace with each other. Siok Chol could only acknowledge it, and couldn't do anything else. And his dad was equally troubled, as he had to tell his wife that the house would be foreclosed by the bank. His wife couldn't hand over this house to the bank and go live in a rented apartment anymore. This place held so many memories for their 3 children. Even though her husband didn't really want to, he was just afraid that in the end, they would have to give it to the bank. After receiving the news that she would become a singer, Miong happily told Siok Chol, and went with him to the nursing home, to tell her mom the news right away. But as soon as they arrived at the nursing home, Siok Hui and Miong received news that her mom was losing control. Only when she appeared did her mom start to calm down. Seeing his girlfriend's mother and daughter like this, Siok Chol also felt very heartbroken. So he just closed the door so the two could have some privacy. After talking, Miong said that in the past, when she asked her mom where she was going, her mom would just smile and not say anything. Then she would take Miong to a piano store. She was also a talented pianist and had chosen the piano that produced the best sound, and then she promised her mom something that she no longer remembered. Looking back now, Miong was worried that she wouldn't be able to make the same promises to her mom as in the past. On the 28th, Siok Hui started following her boyfriend, and discovered that he was with the hospital director's daughter. She wanted to go in and cause a scene of jealousy, but someone there stopped her, telling her to get in line because she didn't have a ticket. Siok Hui could only sit outside angrily. Time passed, and those people kept laughing and looking at Siok Hui, which made her angrily ask the security guard what he was laughing at. He probably found it funny, seeing someone like her having to go catch someone cheating. But after threatening someone, Siok Hui was immediately kicked out by the security guard. She didn't know what else to do, but act annoyed when she saw her boyfriend with someone else. After visiting his mom at the nursing home, Siok Chol took his girlfriend to the company to work. He didn't forget to hug and comfort his girlfriend, wishing her well and telling her to come home afterward. But on the way back, Siok Cho accidentally ran into the former chairman, who had protested at the bar area. So the two went together to the old bar chairman's garden for him to tell old stories. Seeing Siok Cho, the little girl Misan and the wife of the old acquaintance also thanked Siok Cho very much because he saved little Misan's dad's life, and since he was already here, they invited Siok Cho to eat and drink with everyone there. The chairman said that the people here were all those whose homes had been stolen and had nowhere to go. After that, they came here and formed a community, just as Siok Cho saw. After the meal, the chairman told Siok Cho to leave the gangster life. Siok Cho said he had already pulled out one leg and would soon pull out the other. If he needed any help, the old bar area chairman would always be willing to help. After Ji Hong and the director's daughter went to the concert together, when asked to go to dinner, Ji Hong immediately felt guilty and admitted to Jin Hee that he couldn't go. It wasn't that he didn't like her, and he didn't hate her. Ji Hong admitted that he had a girlfriend and was engaged, refusing Jin Hee's kindness and immediately running outside to call his girlfriend. He always thought he liked being a bad boy, but unexpectedly he was also an upright guy. Seeing her boyfriend call, Siok Hui was not in the mood to drink alone. Unexpectedly, the patient Jang Hyuk was also there and came to sit with Siok Hui. This guy, at first glance, was struck by love at first sight with Siok Hui. He then asked her if she wanted to drink with him. Ji Hong kept calling her but couldn't reach her. This guy, unexpectedly, couldn't hold his liquor well. Siok Hui told him not to force it if he couldn't drink. Seeing Ji Hong keep calling, this guy also curiously asked if he was her boyfriend. Jang Hyuk didn't say much and took her phone, saying he was Siok Hui's boyfriend, then hung up. That's enough swagger, buddy. Siok Hui also didn't want to make a mistake, so she left first and paid for his drinks. Bong Su was still eating with sister Siok Gong and her son. The boy looked at the family next door, who had both a mother and father, and asked his sister when she could come back home to him. To comfort her son, Siok Gong only said that mommy would come home soon. The boy eagerly asked if his mom could come to the parent-teacher meeting with him. Although it was a bit difficult, Siok Gong could only temporarily agree just so the boy wouldn't feel sad. On the way home, Bong Su looked at the two of them and felt incredibly happy, as if he was bringing his own wife and child home. Although he didn't want to leave the child, Bong Su told his sister to go home first, while Honggon was sleeping, because if he woke up, she wouldn't be able to leave him. So Siok Gong could only thank Bong Su for today. Watching the car drive away, she could only stand there and sob. Siok Chol remembered the chairman's advice to leave the gangster world earlier that afternoon. His heart was heavy, with family on one side and brotherhood on the other. Siok Hui was also in a bad mood today, and just went home and lay lazily on her bed. Seeing his younger sister like that, his older sister Siok Gong also lay down exactly the same way. When Honggon was brought home, he burst into tears when he didn't see his mom. Bong Su had to console him, and the boy said he was just having a nightmare. That night, Miong was still working at the cafe. The paparazzi found out where she worked and took photos, then sent them to Tae-hun. He immediately told his underling to give him the car, and told them to go home early. At that dream cafe, Tae-hun directly ordered an exclusive Americano, made by Miong, and called her aside to talk. His underling Duce Seek, because he needed money, was called by Sang Yeol. If he needed money, doing this one job would be enough. He just had to turn himself in after a month. Duce Seek immediately accepted without thinking much. Sang Yeol then told him that this time, the person he had to eliminate was Tae-hun. Tae-hun, on the other hand, was talking to Miong about wanting to use money to buy her dream. In return, Miong only needed to drink a few cups of coffee with him like this. It was clear that Tae-hun still wanted to flirt with Miong, but he didn't know that Siok Chol had already arrived and was looking for his girlfriend. When he appeared in front of Miong, her face only showed anxiety and sadness as she looked at her boyfriend. Tae-hun, on the other hand, was incredibly pleased, thinking that his goal would be achieved. When he took Miong home, she remembered Tae-hun saying that Siok Chol was someone who would only endure if he himself suffered some disadvantage. But he couldn't stand to see others harmed. Miong, heartbroken, went to hug Siok Chol and asked, "Does your old promise to me still count? If Miong is bullied by someone, Siok Chol will do that to them, right?" With that, Miong wanted him to stay the night. The next morning when Siok Chol returned home, not coming home all night made his dad a little curious, and he stopped by to ask. As soon as he opened the door, he saw his son dressed neatly and perfectly. He was curious if his son was interested in someone. Siok Chol, seeing his dad ask that, honestly admitted it. When he saw his dad about to say something, he asked again, but his dad just said, "It's nothing." When he went to work, he didn't forget to call Miong to say good morning. She told him to pick her up from work after he finished his tasks. and she didn't forget to wish her boyfriend a happy day at work. After those words came Miong's anxiety, as she remembered Taehyun's words. He had left his business card in case she changed her mind, and didn't want him to ruin Siok Cho's life. So Miong called Taehyun back, just as he had expected. But Miong was not afraid at all, telling him to take back his words from yesterday. She was not afraid of a gangster like Taehyun. Hearing these words, Taehyun also decided not to take back his words. Instead, he would go all the way with what he said he would do to make things difficult for Siok Cho. This girl must have gathered all her courage to refuse him. And his older sister Siok Gong, on the other hand, was always worried, wondering if she should go home and see her son. Her son was truly adorable, to the point that she might change her mind. As for his younger sister Siok Hui, she and her boyfriend were still having a bit of a disagreement. Dr. Ji Hong couldn't reach her all last night. Siok Hui said she went drinking to drown her sorrows, and didn't pay attention to her phone. Ji Hong was curious. Is it that martial arts guy who keeps complaining about pain here and there? So now you know how to be jealous. Siok Hui asked Ji Hong what he did last night, and he still lied about going to a class reunion. But Siok Hui had witnessed him, and the director's daughter going to that concert. At least she had hoped her boyfriend wouldn't lie to her. Now she wasn't sure if she should believe in their engagement anymore. Ji Hong wanted to explain now, but Siok Hui no longer wanted to believe him. She didn't want to be treated like an idiot. Do whatever you want, she said, then broke up with Ji Hong. She was already sad about the breakup, and then her sister Siok Gong called. But her sister saying she was moving surprised Siok Hui. I'm going to the school to pick up my son and take him with me. She spoke so bravely, but when she heard about getting hit by their dad at home, she wrung her hands. Siok Hui told her sister to check on top of the fridge. There were sedatives there. Take them, then clasp her hands and pray. It was truly hard to even meet her son. She was already mad at her boyfriend, and now her sister. Siok Hui decided to call her mom, pretending her house had a lot of clothes and asking her mom to come over to help with laundry, not forgetting to remind her mom to bring some perilla leaves for her, and telling her mom she might need some strength when she came to her house. Her mom didn't know what it was that would require strength. His younger sister Siok Hui was really going to prank her sister a bit this time for fun. If she wanted to see her son that badly, her younger sister would make it happen for her. Meanwhile, Siok Cho's dad was talking to his junior about repaying the bank loan. His dad suddenly asked how that Jin Deok guy was doing these days. His junior, after hearing that, wondered, are you planning to borrow money from him? All his life, he had never asked a junior for a favor, but now he was being pushed to this point by the bank. His junior De Yi asked how his eldest son was doing these days, but just mentioning that son gave him a headache. If he wants to, he'll come home by himself. Meanwhile, Siok Cho and his underlings went to a restaurant near their workplace, and the other underlings also came to this restaurant, making customers scared and run away. What surprised him even more was that the student was still stubbornly there. Siok Cho then pulled the student aside and asked how his studies were going to get into the top 10 in school. The student said he tried, but getting into the top 10 was impossible, because instead of being in the top 10, this kid was in the top 5. Siok Cho still wanted this kid to study, because he was talented, but the kid wanted to follow him and knelt, begging. Seeing the sincerity of this student, Siok Cho began to ask his underling what his past dream was. The two began to talk about his past dream. He really liked baseball, but in middle school, this kid gave up, just because his glove got torn. Siok Cho told the guy that there was nothing he was hoping for here. The kid, on the other hand, thought it was too late to go back to baseball. Siok Cho said, it's better to be a baseball player than a failed thug. He encouraged his junior to try hard and do what he liked. If it didn't work out in the end, then he could come back here. The kid, as if understanding Siok Cho's meaning, left the area. Taehyun learned through an underling that Miong was currently preparing to be a singer for a media company. This underling had a loose tongue and kept provoking Taehyun's personality. Meanwhile, Duce Seek had received money from Sang Yale for dealing with Taehyun. Knowing this kid needed money, he just needed a little encouragement to obey. And ever since he got money, Duce Seek immediately started pouring all his money into gambling. He held the money for a moment, and then it was all gone, not a penny left, in less than half an hour. And Taehyun received intelligence from the underling on Chang Su's side. He said that Siok Cho had been asked by Chang Su to deal with Taehyun cleanly. So Taehyun returned to his company, kicked everyone else out, talked to John Ho, and told his underling to gather discreet people here. Siok Cho had no idea he was about to be in danger. He went to a dress shop and remembered the photo in his girlfriend's room. There was a woman exactly like Miong wearing a stunning yellow dress, and Siok Cho was like a tree in that painting, bringing good things to Miong. In her audition, Miong did very well, making the manager very happy. He asked if she planned to compose any other songs. A little sad would be fine. So Miong immediately started planning a song about a breakup, before the two even had a chance to fall in love. Today, Bong Su deliberately went to meet sister Siok Gong, but he didn't check the date. Just as he was about to go up, Siok Gong's mom arrived, bringing her friend. Bong Su tried calling his sister repeatedly, and Siok Gong finally answered. "You have to leave the house right now, because your mom is coming up." Looking through the peephole and seeing her mom, Bong Su told his sister to lock the door. But her mom knew the passcode because her younger sister had told her. So Siok Gong began to grab all her belongings and hide in the bathroom, then close the door. Suddenly, her mom's friend opened the bathroom door where Siok Gong was hiding, but it wouldn't open. She was already worried, and then there was a phone ringing inside. So the two mothers started picking up things and threatening. "If you don't come out, I'm going to break down the door." Siok Gong had no choice but to appear and surrender in front of her mom and her mom's friend. And this troublesome child again. Bong Su quickly called Siok Cho to report. He frantically called his younger sister, and his sister said, "You are the culprit. It's time to bring her back. You can't let her freeload forever." Thinking it was right, he just wished his sister good luck. As soon as he hung up, Sang Yil called again, saying he had to find Duce Seek right away, because he had gambled all his money away and was now on the run. In front of her mom now, Siok Gong couldn't say a word and looked incredibly pitiful. Her mouth said she missed her mom so much, but her mom knew full well it was only because she was avoiding debt that she didn't come home. Even her dad and younger brother had to borrow money everywhere to pay for her. She was truly a troublesome child who only knew how to waste things. Siok Cho asked his underlings about the situation. He only knew that Duce Seek had borrowed money from a few underlings and then disappeared. The situation was quite tense. So Siok Cho told them that if they found him, they had to report back to him immediately. At internet cafes and gambling dens, Siok Cho couldn't find where that guy was. Until Siok Hui came home, she suddenly felt it was a bit quiet inside. She only saw her sister drinking alone, lonely. Siok Gong called her younger sister over and started confessing. "Your sister here is incredibly lonely." Siok Hui acted as if she knew nothing about her mom coming here. Feeling sympathetic towards her sister, she asked if her mom had done anything to her. She knew that the two of them had conspired to call their mom here. Her mom only said, "Live your whole life hiding with Siok Hui in this house. The two words deceit are always visible on your face." Siok Gong started to get angry, just because her younger sister dared to call their mom here to catch her. But Siok Hui was also very tired. Her sister kept freeloading here, and then she caught her boyfriend going out privately with the director's daughter. She only felt afraid that her sister would run away, so she called her mom. Siok Gong then burst into tears like a child. Others looking in might have thought his younger sister was bullying a child. Siok Cho continued to look for Duce Seek everywhere, and finally only found a crumpled apology letter from him in the closet. Siok Cho rummaged inside, and found Chang Su's knife that he had given him before. He immediately took the knife, and asked Sang Yil why this thing was in Duce Seek's locker. Sang Yil didn't care. He just knew that if Duce Seek was caught, he would pay. But Siok Cho didn't bother to care. He wanted to get in his car and leave this place, but the car wouldn't even start. Having no other choice, he could only take a taxi to Miong's company, because he had arranged to pick up his girlfriend there today. Meanwhile, Miong was still auditioning at the new company, but she found Tae-hun standing in front of the recording studio, looking at her with an incredibly intense gaze. When she went to him, she asked Tae-hun, "What's the situation now?" He said he would revise the contract until Miong was satisfied, but she didn't like having her life trifled with like this. Just then, Siok Cho rushed to the scene. Seeing Tae-hun holding his girlfriend's hand, he immediately stepped in to stop them. The look in his eyes towards his senior was incredibly murderous. Tae-hun said he just wanted to help Miong achieve her dream. He only did it because Siok Cho couldn't. Siok Cho told Tae-hun that if he kept doing this, the situation would be very awkward. Tae-hun then couldn't hold back anymore, and said that Siok Cho also made him feel uncomfortable all over his body. Then Miong tried to make Tae-hun leave, which eased Siok Cho's worries somewhat. After Tae-hun left, Siok Cho took out the gift he had prepared for Miong. This was the exact same dress as in the painting Siok Cho saw in her room. She was very touched, and asked Siok Cho if he wanted to go somewhere far away, anywhere to escape this place. Siok Cho didn't think much, and started booking a bus. A moment later, when he turned back, Miong was gone. He looked for her for a while, and only saw his girlfriend wearing the dress he bought for her, looking absolutely stunning. He couldn't hold back and rushed to hug Miong, thinking he had lost his girlfriend. The two stayed on that bus all night, traveling far from the bustling city, reaching a beautiful seaport, and then watched the sunrise together. He wished time could just stay like this forever. Meanwhile, at Siok Cho's house, his grandmother taught his grandson how to fight against bullies. Grab their hair, slap them on the ear, slap them repeatedly, and then a direct iron head move into the opponent. Everything had to involve using one's head. Honggon listened and found it reasonable, but he couldn't do it. The boy said his mom was coming back soon, so he didn't have to learn the thunderous headbutt. His grandmother then encouraged him. Grandma will bring your mom back here soon too. The next day, Siok Cho didn't wake up until noon, but when she did, she didn't see her sister anywhere. Just then, her sister returned, startling her. Her sister said mom had texted to say she would pick them up tomorrow, so she had to go home now. Although she didn't have enough courage to face their dad, Siok Cho said her sister's son was still praying that when the lilac tree at home bloomed, she would come back to him. It's true that a mother can make her child believe in faith. Today, seeing her sister unusually obedient, Siok Gong said she didn't want to live blindly anymore and started making breakfast for her younger sister. Seeing her sister being so cheesy, Siok Cho couldn't stand it. Just as she was about to go to work, her boyfriend Ji Hong came all the way to her house to pick her up. Siok Cho was still half angry, saying that half of that anger probably wouldn't go away. Ji Hong apologized, wanting to try to make it up to her. He said she could just take out her anger on Ji Hong. Miong only saw her future as a bit blurry, because being a nurse for 5 years was getting boring, and she planned to quit. Ji Hong immediately stopped her, although she went to a place where she could relax mentally quite well. His mouth was quick and non-stop. Thank you, dear customer. Please fasten your seatbelt and have a happy trip. Miong and Siok Cho also had a date that looked incredibly happy. They laughed and talked, looking very content. But Tae-hun was not like that. Standing in front of his sister, he felt guilty. He thought Siok Cho would be the one to kill him, while this news was actually unfounded. Tae-hun had never thought that an underling who always stood up for him before, someone who was always willing to kneel and beg for forgiveness for Tae-hun in front of others. At that time, he felt like he was nothing but someone who always caused trouble for his younger sister. As soon as he went outside, his underling John Ho came to announce that all the people were ready. This underling wanted to act immediately, which made Tae-hun's mood unstable. He told his underling to only do what he was assigned. Sang Yeol, because the task he assigned to someone else to deal with Tae-hun didn't work out, and he also lost money, made Chang Su incredibly angry. He told Sang Yeol to choose the stick he liked best. When the chairman was about to choose, Sang Yeol got scared and told him it would be better to pick a baseball bat. Chang Su unleashed all his anger on Sang Yeol. Suddenly, he lost his strength and couldn't stand steadily. He continued to hit Sang Yeol a few more times to vent his anger. The underlings outside just knew how to gossip. Sang Yeol asked where Siok Cho was. He only knew he couldn't be reached, but Siok Cho was happily dating his girlfriend in a distant, faraway place with Miong, talking about old times when the two were in love. Sang Yeol kept trying to call Siok Cho, but he couldn't reach him. Meanwhile, at home, Siok Cho's dad couldn't find his white suit, so he asked his wife. She said she had sent it to the dry cleaner, and he should go pick it up there. And Siok Gong had also prepared herself to go home, getting all her personal belongings ready. Suddenly there was a knock at the door that startled her. She looked out and saw her friend, Yong Nim. She didn't know what this friend's intention was. It turned out that she had lost her home, because she gambled all her money away. She called Siok Gong and asked if she remembered her friend's ex-boyfriend, Chang Gap. This woman had been deceived for a long time, but she still believed him. This woman talked about how that guy was now running a pawnbroker service near her house. It seemed quite promising. She was probably trying to lure Siok Gong into this path, but Siok Gong had reconsidered. She didn't want to get involved in these things and wanted to go home. But Donggu still tempted her, saying that pawnbroking could earn hundreds of millions of won every month. If she didn't go quickly, they would find someone else. Siok Gong also started to waver a little. Siok Cho's dad was currently getting dressed to go meet a loan shark. Only by meeting this person could he keep this house. When he and his junior De Yi went to meet that underling, he also complained that the loan shark market was very difficult these days. He turned and asked his senior what his purpose for coming today was. Seeing that his boss didn't dare to speak, De Yi said, "The purpose is so clear, why are you still asking?" His boss then asked if his underling could lend him 70,000. This guy didn't think much, and immediately agreed to lend it at an interest rate of 10%. De Yi suddenly felt awkward, asking why he was charging interest to him. De Yi then scolded him, saying that from being a beggar by the riverside, he was now charging interest to his big brother. But Siok Cho's dad truly had no other choice, so he had to agree to that 10% interest rate. De Yi saw that his brother no longer had the gangster demeanor of the old days. He didn't say a word back and just dejectedly walked away. And Siok Gong was still thinking about what her friend had said. She directly crumpled that piece of paper and threw it away without hesitation. And Siok Hui was having a good time, going out with her boyfriend Ji Hong. She decided to use all her ability to reconcile with her boyfriend one more time. While they were eating, her mom called, saying she couldn't wait anymore, and wanted Siok Gong to come home immediately. She was worried that if her eldest daughter didn't come home soon, she would run away again. So, while hanging out, Siok Hui called Siok Gong to tell her that mom would be coming home. But Siok Hui was too far from home to get there immediately. Siok Hui said if Siok Gong didn't go home right away, mom would change her mind. Having no other choice, Siok Cho could only call his best friend who liked his sister, asking Bong Su to pick up Siok Gong and bring her home. This made him very excited, and he immediately called Siok Gong, who heard that she had to go home today, not tomorrow. Siok Gong suddenly wondered why it had to be today. Bong Su comforted her. "Don't worry, I'm here. With me protecting you, your dad won't do anything to you." Siok Cho also told his girlfriend about this. Since he had been free for so long, he only wanted to keep going places with Miong. Siok Gong had mentally prepared herself and packed all her belongings, looking at herself in the mirror one last time before being taken home. That evening, Bong Su arrived at Siok Gong's house, called her, looking very excited. "I'm downstairs." Then he took out a bouquet of flowers, as if he wanted to confess his feelings to her. However, after waiting all evening, he didn't see Siok Gong anywhere. Bong Su's police instinct suddenly grew worried, thinking something was wrong. It turned out Siok Gong had been swayed by her friend's words, determined to go earn money to pay off her family's debt, until Siok Hui and her mom returned. Siok Gong texted Bong Su to apologize, and told him not to meet her again in the future. Everyone received a message from Siok Gong. Her mom immediately broke down, and Bong Su also didn't know what to do anymore. Except for Siok Cho, Siok Gong couldn't send him a message. Instead, she called her younger brother to talk. She told Siok Hui that she wouldn't be able to come home. Siok Cho also understood his sister. If she had her own thoughts, she could go far away, but she had to eat well, live well, and occasionally keep in touch. When she suddenly wanted to come back again, she shouldn't ignore it, because her family was still waiting at home. Whatever happened, Siok Cho would listen and help. Siok Gong just didn't want to continue being a burden on her family. Although she missed her son dearly, she decided to leave this house and hung up. After bringing her mom home, Siok Hui ran in and hugged him as if nothing had happened, then said she had just had dinner with her mom. Seeing his wife sitting there blankly, he asked what was wrong, but she just made an excuse and left. In reality, she ran into the bathroom and burst into sobs. And Siok Gong had already begun her new journey, but when she saw the falling flower petals, she couldn't stop crying as images of her son constantly appeared in her mind. So that very night, she decided not to go anymore. She stood outside her house and shouted the names of each person, calling out to her parents and her son. "Your troublesome daughter is back." Mom, her younger sister, and her son quickly ran out to greet her. Their father sat up with an angry expression. The father furiously stormed over to his daughter, raising his hand to give her a mighty slap. But when he saw his daughter trembling in fear and his grandson shielding his mother, in the end, the slap didn't land. He only angrily told his wife to call his daughter in for dinner. It had been a long time since the eldest sister had eaten a meal cooked by her mother. She was so moved that tears fell. Her mother and younger sister looked at her with joyful eyes, happy that this time she hadn't caused trouble again, but had actively returned home. The next morning, the three, mother and daughters, prepared a lavish breakfast together. The eldest sister tried to win over her father by scooping him a bowl of soup, but he was still angry and didn't bother to notice. Seeing this, the quick-witted boy took the initiative to share seaweed with everyone, making the family atmosphere warm. His younger sister took the opportunity to take a picture of the whole family and sent it to Siok Cho. Seeing the family reunited, Siok Cho's heart also felt incredibly warm. He showed the picture to Miong and promised to bring her home someday. When the two decided to return, Siok Cho told Miong to get in the car first, while he went to buy drinks. Just then, he realized that someone in black clothes was secretly following him. The man in black sent the photos of Siok Cho and Miong to Boss Kang. Remembering the news that the chairman had sent Siok Cho to eliminate him, Boss Kang's mind was filled with 100 thoughts. After taking Miong home, Siok Cho went straight back to his own house. He and his eldest sister sat and talked in the yard. Knowing that the hair salon at the end of the village was hiring, he advised his sister to go work there, because doing nothing all the time was not the way to live. His eldest sister expressed regret that she had not stopped Siok Cho from joining the gang years ago. She had thought her brother wouldn't last long, but he had continued until now. Siok Cho also regretted the path he had chosen, but the past could not be changed. He could only try to seize life from now on. His eldest sister was preparing to attend the parent-teacher meeting at her son's school. This was her first time attending as a mother, so she radiated nervousness. Siok Cho planned to go with his sister, but just as he finished speaking, his childhood police friend, already in a suit, ran up and proactively offered to go with them. Siok Cho's mom was very satisfied with this guy, considering him her future son-in-law. His younger sister planned to study abroad, but just then, her boyfriend happily announced he had been appointed as an associate professor. Although she was happy for her boyfriend, she didn't want to give up her dream. However, she then heard from her mom that the family home was about to be foreclosed by the bank, and her dad was looking for a cheaper apartment. Her heart sank. She knew her dad must be the saddest person right now. Seeing her dad return tired, she hugged him from behind. Thinking about having to give up the home she had lived in her whole life, where every branch and blade of grass was green, her heart ached. Her dad held her hand, his face etched with resignation but also full of emotion. Siok Cho went to the car wash, completely unaware that Boss Kang's underling was following closely behind. The underling called to report, saying that the people and tools were ready, and they would act as soon as Boss Kang gave the order. Boss Kang's inner self was in intense turmoil. He remembered Siok Cho's concern and companionship at his sister's funeral. Finally, loyalty won. He ordered his underlings to cancel the plan. Siok Cho was completely unaware that he had just narrowly escaped death. He went to the company and submitted his resignation to the henchman, solemnly declaring that he was determined to leave. The henchman warned him that quitting would not be easy. If he insisted on resigning, he would not let him rest. Siok Cho could only sigh helplessly, hoping the henchman would go easy on him. Leaving the company, Siok Cho received a text message from Boss Kang, inviting him to meet. When he arrived, Boss Kang said he wanted to confide in him about life. Siok Cho frankly stated that he had submitted his resignation, and also hoped that Boss Kang could leave the gangster world to live a peaceful life. Boss Kang scoffed that this was the job he relied on to live, and no matter what, he would stick with it to the end. Siok Cho continued to persuade him, saying that living in the underworld was not a job, but just a conspiracy of a group of violent people. But Boss Kang pessimistically thought that living in the underworld, or being a normal person, was still a human life. No different. It was all about making a living. Siok Cho felt tired. Before he left, he told Boss Kang to follow the right path and find someone to share a meal with. Hearing these words, Boss Kang went to the nursing home where Miong's mother was staying. He not only changed her to a private room, but also proactively bought her favorite foods. Miong was not grateful at all, warning him not to cross the line, and immediately pushed the wheelchair to take her mother back to the old room. Boss Kang said that his sister, back then, also had a dream of painting, hoping to become a great artist someday. But in the end, her dream was unfulfilled, and she passed away with regret. He guessed that at that time, his sister must have been very heartbroken, having a thuggish, poor, and incompetent brother. Therefore, he hoped Miong could accept his help and not follow in his footsteps. Miong was a little emotional. After a moment of hesitation, she still pushed the wheelchair to take her mother back to the old room. In another development, the henchman reported to the chairman that Siok Cho wanted to resign. He believed that Siok Cho wouldn't change his mind, so he wanted to teach him a lesson he'd never forget. He even falsely accused Siok Cho of possibly joining Boss Kang after leaving, and that they had to root out the weeds. The chairman personally met with Siok Cho, advising him to withdraw his resignation. He said that if Siok Cho left, he would have no one left to trust. Siok Cho frankly said that the henchman was still by the chairman's side, but the chairman replied, "That henchman is incompetent and blindly overconfident. He has never accomplished anything." He said that he had always considered Siok Cho the second in command of the gang. The chairman decided he would retire soon and hand over the entire company to Siok Cho. There was only one thing he didn't tell him, that he had a tumor. At this time, neither of them knew that their conversation had been overheard by the henchman standing outside the door, not missing a single word. He immediately felt jealousy and envy. Siok Cho refused the chairman's plea, resolutely leaving the company. After saying goodbye, he shared this good news with Miong. Miong was overjoyed, happy that he had finally escaped the hateful gangster world. However, being coldly rejected by Miong, Boss Kang was extremely dissatisfied, and immediately ordered his underlings to act. His underlings gathered people, then provoked and assaulted the underlings Siok Cho managed while they were gathered. One person in the group called Siok Cho for help. As soon as he answered the phone, he was intentionally hit by a truck. When Siok Cho woke up, he was in the hospital. His police friend told him that this was a deliberate attack. The truck used fake license plates, and surveillance cameras showed it had been following him for 10 minutes, clearly intentionally. His friend also said that Siok Cho probably knew who the mastermind was, but Siok Cho asked his friend not to investigate further. He thought that if the opponent truly wanted him dead, he wouldn't have just been simply injured. He wanted to consider this accident an unintended incident because he didn't want to be involved with the gangster world anymore. After his friend left, Siok Cho called Boss Kang. He knew perfectly well that Kang was behind it and hoped that everything would stop here. After being discharged from the hospital, Siok Cho went to work at the union chairman's garden. He shared this good news with Miong. She was very happy that he had found a job and started a new life. She believed that things would definitely get better and better from now on. Meanwhile, Siok Cho's mother told her husband about their youngest daughter's intention to study abroad. His father supported his daughter's decision. Even if life was difficult, he still encouraged her to pursue her dreams. But her boyfriend objected to a long-distance relationship. He thought that dreams were important, but one couldn't ignore reality. If she insisted on leaving, no one could predict the outcome of this relationship. Her family needed money, and her boyfriend objected to parting ways. The younger sister found herself in an awkward situation. As for the boyfriend, he was also facing a challenge. The director, after hearing his daughter's story, knew he had a girlfriend. He asked if his girlfriend's family could help with his career, and then used his own experience to advise him to break up. He promised that if he became his precious son-in-law, he would fully support him in becoming a full professor. He also said, "A man who is too sentimental finds it difficult to achieve great things," and hoped he would weigh the pros and cons to make a wise choice. Miong also encountered difficulties. While working, she received a call from the nursing home, reporting that her mother had suddenly fallen ill. The doctor believed her condition was very critical and needed to be transferred to a large hospital for surgery immediately. Miong didn't have enough money to care for her mother. While she was still hesitating, Boss Kang, who had just come to visit, quickly called an ambulance. After taking her mother to the large hospital, Boss Kang also took the initiative to pay the hospital bills and surgery costs. Siok Cho's younger sister advised Miong not to worry, saying that her mother would definitely recover. She also lamented that everyone had been having a rough time lately. First, Siok Cho had a car accident, and now Miong's mother's condition had worsened. It was at this moment that Miong learned Siok Cho had been in an accident. Hearing that someone had deliberately caused a car crash to harm him, she immediately remembered what Boss Kang had told her. She rushed to confront Boss Kang, asking if he was the one who had harmed Siok Cho. Boss Kang admitted it was him. He said he liked Miong. Miong needed help, and he could do that, while Siok Cho did not have this ability. He also advised Miong to break up with Siok Cho. Otherwise, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't do anything to Siok Cho again in the future. Siok Cho's younger sister realized that the relationship between Miong and Boss Kang was not simple. She immediately told Siok Cho that Boss Kang had taken Miong's mother to the hospital and paid her hospital fees in advance. Siok Cho immediately called Boss Kang, warning him to stay away from Miong and not to do anything else. After that, he went to the hospital to visit Miong and her mother. Miong confided in him with a heavy heart. After seeing him off, she didn't reply to his messages or answer his calls. Siok Cho was uneasy and went to her house to find her, but Miong pretended not to be home, refusing to meet him. After much thought and deliberation, Miong took the initiative to call Siok Cho, arranging to meet at the park they often went to. Seeing Miong's haggard face, Siok Cho's heart ached because she hadn't taken good care of herself these past few days. Miong was silent for a long time. Then, stifling her pain, she finally said, "I want to break up." Worried about Siok Cho's safety, Miong heartbreakingly suggested they break up. She lied, saying she was going through a difficult time and it might be better to live alone. As she was about to leave, Siok Cho called her back, his eyes full of affection, telling her that if things got too difficult, she should come back to him. He would always be waiting. Sitting on the bus, Siok Cho burst into tears. Memories of reuniting with Miong flooded his mind. He knew his feelings for Miong were strong. He could never let go of her in this life. Miong also cried, choked with emotion. She remembered when she transferred schools in the past. Siok Cho had recklessly chased after her bus. Realizing that she had once hurt Siok Cho, she couldn't hurt him again. Miong rushed back to find Siok Cho, but he had already left. Upon returning home, Miong collapsed, sitting on the floor, then unexpectedly received a call from the hospital. Her mother had been taken to the operating room. She prayed for a successful surgery, so her mother could continue to be with her. But sadly, her mother didn't make it. Losing her only relative, Miong was in extreme pain, trying to suppress her emotions to arrange the funeral. Only when she saw Siok Cho appear did her pent-up grief turn into a flood of tears. Siok Cho held her tightly, letting her cry freely. Afterward, Siok Cho called his best friend and his sister's boyfriend to help with the funeral arrangements. He stayed by Miong's side, receiving guests, becoming her most solid support. When Taehyun heard the news and arrived, seeing the two standing together, he immediately entrusted Miong to Siok Cho's care and resolutely left. After her mother was buried, Miong decided to move. She planned to travel to her mother's hometown once she settled down. Siok Cho told her to eat well, take care of herself, and then proactively stood up and left to give her space. Miong couldn't hold back her lingering feelings and blurted out the truth. She broke up with him specifically because she was afraid Siok Cho would get involved. During her days with Siok Cho, she was very happy, but she was increasingly worried that if they continued, he might be in danger, even lose his life. Siok Cho held Miong tightly, gently apologizing for not thinking things through completely before, making her bear such heavy pressure. After that, Siok Cho decided to travel with Miong. First, he took her to work and told her to wait, while he went home to pack his luggage. On the way home, Siok Cho stopped to see Taehyun. Siok Cho had guessed that the reason for their breakup was because of him. Siok Cho firmly stated that no matter what tactics Taehyun used, he and Miong would not break up, and he hoped Taehyun would stop. Siok Cho believed that Taehyun's inherent kindness had not been lost, hoping that the two sides could resolve their grievances and return to being friends, able to eat at the same table as before. Faced with Siok Cho's sincerity, Taehyun only remained silent as an answer. Meanwhile, the chairman sought out Siok Cho's dad, bringing up how Taehyun led people to provoke the underlings in the gang, wondering whether to retaliate, because the chairman himself had wronged Taehyun years ago. It turned out that Taehyun used to be a gang member. Thanks to his superior abilities, he made the chairman jealous. Even though he knew his henchmen fabricated that Taehyun stole money, the chairman chose to believe it, ultimately forcing Taehyun to leave the gang. Unexpectedly, one wrong move deepened the conflict to an irreconcilable extent. Hearing this, Siok Cho's dad remembered his time in prison. Due to his proud self-esteem, he refused to accept money directly from the chairman, but cleverly arranged for the chairman to bring Siok Cho into the gang, treating that money as his son's salary. It was that damn self-esteem that pulled his son into the gangster's vortex. Few knew that the henchman who framed Taehyun years ago was his senior. Still holding a grudge against Siok Cho, he once tried to incite the chairman to deal with him. But when he went to find the chairman, he found him collapsed and unconscious on the ground. He didn't immediately save him. Instead, he sat in the chairman's chair, experiencing the feeling of being the boss that he had always dreamed of. After a long while, he leisurely called for an ambulance, taking the chairman to the hospital. Then he learned that the chairman had a brain tumor, but instead of worrying, he secretly rejoiced, feeling that the peak of power he had dreamed of for so many years was now within his grasp. He had always considered Siok Cho a rival. Now, seeing the chairman seriously ill, he called his underlings, ordering them to capture Siok Cho at all costs to eliminate this threat. Siok Cho's dad, on the other hand, was completely unaware of the chairman's misfortune. He was only worried as the family's debt repayment deadline approached, thinking about taking out high-interest loans to manage. Just then, his wife delivered the news that their youngest daughter had helped pay off the entire debt. It turned out that her boyfriend, who initially objected to her studying abroad, was later moved by her persistence in pursuing her dream. Remembering his own youthful ideals, he decided to study abroad with her, striving for a future together. His younger sister was both touched and guilty. Crying in her boyfriend's arms, she said she had given up her plan to study abroad and wanted to use that money to help her family overcome difficulties. Her boyfriend offered to cover her expenses so she could fulfill her dream, but she refused and gave all the money to her eldest sister. To prevent her sister from feeling guilty, she intentionally swapped the lottery ticket her sister had just bought, smiling and saying that unless that ticket won, she wouldn't think about studying abroad again. Siok Cho's dad blamed himself for not being able to be a pillar of support for his children, and instead implicating his daughter. He drank to drown his sorrows, hating his own helplessness. Siok Cho also thanked his younger sister and felt guilty for not being able to help the family, but she comforted him in return, saying that the most important thing for him right now was to take care of Miong and travel with her to have fun. Hearing that, Siok Cho immediately called Miong, but right after that, a group of gangsters unexpectedly appeared, blocked his path, kidnapped Siok Cho, and took him to the company. He was falsely accused of colluding with Taehyun, brutally beaten and tied up. To eliminate Taehyun, he used Siok Cho's phone to text him, inviting him to the restaurant where they had met before. Receiving the message, Tae-hun remembered Siok Cho's words about wanting to make peace and share a friendly meal, so he happily left immediately. But upon arrival, he realized that the familiar restaurant owner had been replaced by a stranger, and the surroundings also seemed suspicious. Feeling something was wrong, Tae-hun started to leave, but was surrounded by him and his men, who openly declared that they would take his life today. Tae-hun fought desperately, escaping outside but gradually becoming exhausted. Luckily, 2 loyal underlings, who were uneasy, arrived in time to save him. The 3 joined forces to escape and sped away in a car. Tae-hun suspected Siok Cho of colluding with him to set a trap, so he hated him to the core. At this moment, Siok Cho was still struggling to untie himself. An underling assigned to guard him, unable to bear it, secretly let him go. He immediately ran to find Miong. As soon as they met, before they could say anything, Tae-hun's underlings chased after them. He quickly asked the union chairman to take Miong to the bus station, promising to meet her after he escaped the pursuit. Then he quickly drove away. Faced with a relentless chase, he weaved through many turns, then jumped out of the car, rushed into the subway station, leaped over the turnstiles, stormed into a train car, and miraculously escaped. He collapsed onto a seat, blood dripping from his hand, seemingly oblivious, only thinking of meeting Miong quickly. Finally, Siok Cho found Miong at the bus station and embraced her, full of fear and relief. He put Miong in the car first and then went to arrange his luggage. But just as he was about to get in the car, a masked man in black suddenly appeared and stabbed him, causing him to collapse. Miong, seeing this, was utterly terrified, crying and screaming for him to wake up. Siok Cho was immediately rushed to the emergency room. The surgery was fortunately successful, but he remained in a deep coma. Siok Cho's dad rushed over, holding his son's hand, full of remorse and self-blame for harming him. In his coma, Siok Cho recalled countless memories with Miong. Finally, the image of the assassin stabbing him appeared, making him jolt awake and slowly open his eyes. Before that, the police arrested Tae-hun's underlings for questioning, but they insisted they had not harmed Siok Cho. His police friend then asked Miong to recall the event, but she remembered nothing about the assassin's appearance. Because Tae-hun had previously harmed Siok Cho, she suspected it was him, and proactively arranged to meet him to confront him. Even Tae-hun's boss was suspicious of him, and demanded that he find the culprit and force him to confess. His police friend also asked Siok Cho if he had clearly seen the assassin's face. In reality, he had seen him, but he lied and said he hadn't. After that, his boss pretended to visit and probe, asking if he recognized the attacker, but he still insisted he hadn't seen anything. When he left, Siok Cho went to the hallway, his heart heavy, recalling the moment of the attack. He clearly saw the face under the hat, and even heard the attacker trembling and apologizing. And that person was none other than the high school student, who had repeatedly asked to join the gang, but was advised by him to go back to school. Siok Cho immediately called the student, telling him he was okay, and wouldn't press charges. All he asked for was the truth. Who was the mastermind that ordered the hit? Overcome with guilt and regret, the student was already on edge. After Siok Cho's urging, he confessed everything, revealing that a man named Sang Yeo was behind it all. Here's what happened. Sang Yeo had gone to the restaurant where the student's mother worked and tempted him with money. He promised that if the student killed Siok Cho, he would provide the cash for his mother to open her own restaurant. It was a chance for her to finally stop struggling after raising him all by herself. The student had tried to join Siok Cho's crew several times before, but Siok Cho always turned him away, wanting a better life for the kid. Knowing Siok Cho had his best interests at heart, he initially refused to harm him, but Sang Yeo then threatened his mother's safety, warning him that if he didn't go after Siok Cho, the next thing he'd see would be his mother's body. To protect his mom, the student was cornered and forced to attack Siok Cho. After hearing the whole story, Siok Cho ordered the student to turn himself in to the police immediately and get out of his hiding spot. He warned him that the criminal underworld never leaves loose ends alive. But just as the student hung up, there was a knock at the door. It was Sang Yeo's men. They lied, claiming Siok Cho had found out the truth, and they were there to take the student to a safe place. To protect him, the trusting student went with them. But the moment he stepped outside, he was ambushed by other henchmen and forced into a car. The next day, Siok Cho saw a news report. The student's body had been found. Police suspected he had crashed his motorcycle into a construction site and accidentally fallen into the river. A fatal accident. Siok Cho immediately called his loyal right-hand man, who delivered the devastating news. The student's death was no accident. Sang Yeo had murdered him. He also revealed that while the chairman was recovering from an illness, Sang Yeo had seized the opportunity to take his position, throwing his weight around and running amok. When the chairman returned from the hospital, he walked into his office and saw his chair still spinning. He instantly knew Sang Yo had just been sitting there, making his ambition to take over crystal clear. The chairman had already suspected Sang Yo was behind the assassination attempt on Siok Cho, but Sang Yo pinned all the blame on another man, Tae-hun, and swore he had nothing to do with it. The chairman knew the character of both Siok Cho and Tae-hun. He was now filled with regret for believing Sang Yo's lies and kicking Tae-hun out. He didn't buy Sang Yo's excuses and declared that if he found proof he was behind Siok Cho's attack, he would make him pay dearly. Terrified of being exposed, Sang Yo had ordered his men to take the student to a bridge and ruthlessly throw him into the river below. Hearing about Sang Yo's cruel and inhuman actions, Siok Cho immediately called Tae-hun to ask for a meeting. Though still holding a grudge against Siok Cho, Tae-hun came to the hospital. There, Siok Cho laid out the entire truth on the day Tae-hun left the crew. Siok Cho himself had been kidnapped and beaten by Sang Yo. Sang Yo then used Siok Cho's phone to text Tae-hun, setting him up to be killed. Siok Cho explained he didn't want them to be played against each other by Sang Yo's schemes. He told Tae-hun he was going to deal with Sang Yo in his own way, and that Tae-hun should stay out of it. Before he left, Tae-hun warned Siok Cho to think about Miong. Don't throw your life away for a scumbag like Sang Yo. He said, trading your life for his isn't worth it. That very day, Siok Cho checked himself out of the hospital. He invited Miong over for dinner at his family's home. His sister's boyfriend and his close friend, the police officer, were there too. It was a warm, joyful family reunion, and everyone was beaming with happiness. During the meal, his sister's boyfriend got down on one knee and asked Siok Cho's parents for their blessing to marry her, explaining he'd use his life savings so they could study abroad together. Not to be left out, Siok Cho's close friend sincerely offered to look after his older sister and her kids. In the middle of the celebration, Siok Cho slipped out into the yard alone. His father, sensing something was on his son's mind, followed him out. Siok Cho recalled a warm childhood memory of planting a tree with his dad, breaking the silence that often stood between them. Finally, he said with a heavy sense of foreboding, "I hope that no matter what I choose to do, you'll always trust me." Although his father didn't know what his son was planning, he trusted that he had grown into a responsible man. He promised that no matter what Siok Cho did, he would have his complete faith. The next day, Siok Cho found the chairman fishing and asked if he had really handed the company over to Sang Yo. He also mentioned that Sang Yo's men had recently been stirring up trouble in Tae-hun's territory, leading to several brawls. The chairman stated firmly that he would never hand his legacy over to someone like Sang Yo. The only reason he hadn't dealt with him sooner was because he knew a man like that would eventually bring about his own downfall. Siok Cho informed the chairman that he was going to handle Sang Yo in his own way. The chairman agreed with his decision, only warning him to not get hurt. Next, Siok Cho tracked down the gambling addict who had run away in fear earlier, and he enlisted his help to break into a car. With his helper in place, Siok Cho called Sang Yo and bluntly laid out all his crimes, from ordering the hit on him to the brutal murder of the student. Sang Yo was shaken but tried to bluff his way out of it, denying everything. At that exact moment, the gambler put the plan into action, prying open the door of Sang Yo's car and snatching the memory card from the dashcam. When Sang Yo heard his car alarm go off, he cautiously went down to check. But by then, the gambler was long gone. Thinking someone must have set it off by accident, he didn't give it a second thought. After getting the memory card, Siok Cho didn't go straight to the police. Instead, he went to find Miong, who was practicing for a performance outdoors. As she excitedly told him about her upcoming show, Siok Cho simply pulled her into a tight hug, burying all of his regrets and longings deep in his heart, careful not to reveal that anything was wrong. After leaving Miong, Siok Cho took his entire family out to dinner. During the meal, he expressed his sorrow for how hard his mother worked every day, and made his older sister and father promise to help her more. His older sister sensed something was off about his words and actions, as if he were settling his affairs. Siok Cho quickly changed the subject to brush away her suspicions. That night, Siok Cho finished writing the song he had promised Miong. He placed the lyrics in front of her mother's memorial portrait. With all his affairs in order, he drove to the company alone. On the way, he got a call from Tae-hun, who pleaded with him not to be stubborn and go it alone. But Siok Cho's mind was made up. He refused to drag anyone else into his fight. He was determined to deal with Sang Yo himself, once and for all, to make sure there would be no more victims. At that same moment, following Siok Cho's orders, his men delivered the dashcam memory card to the police. The card contained crystal clear footage of Sang Yo and his cronies murdering the student. providing the key evidence needed. When Siok Cho's close friend, the police officer, heard that he was going after Sang Yeo alone, he immediately understood the danger and raced to the scene with his team. By then, Siok Cho had already arrived at the company. He stood face to face with Sang Yeo and urged him to turn himself in and pay for his crimes. Sang Yeo not only refused to confess, but ordered his men to attack. Just as the brawl escalated, Tae-hun and his crew burst in, joining the fight to back up Siok Cho. Seeing his men get decimated, a terrified Sang Yeo turned and fled. Siok Cho chased him relentlessly, finally cornering him on the rooftop and giving him one last chance to surrender. Realizing he was trapped, Sang Yeo pulled a hidden knife and lunged at Siok Cho. But he was no match for him and was quickly overpowered. Siok Cho rained down blow after blow on Sang Yeo. Thinking of how Sang Yeo had forced Tae-hun out of the crew and murdered an innocent student, his rage boiled over, and he was ready to kill. At that critical moment, his friend arrived with the police, shouting and stopping him just before he delivered the final fatal blow. At the trial that followed, presented with irrefutable evidence of the student's murder, Sang Yeo was sentenced to 20 years in prison. For his part in the assault, Siok Cho was sentenced to 2.5 years. Elsewhere, the performance had just ended. Miong read a text from Siok Cho, telling her that he had left the song lyrics in front of her mother's portrait. A terrible feeling washed over her. She tried to call him, but the call wouldn't go through. She rushed to her mother's memorial and found the envelope. Inside, along with the song, was a farewell letter from Siok Cho. Not long after, Miong visited him in prison. The moment she saw him, all her bottled-up emotions came flooding out in a torrent of tears. But Siok Cho told her to forget him and start a new life. No matter how much she pleaded, he stoically turned his back, refusing to say another word. 2 years later, the younger sister, now married and living in America, called her mom. She had finished her studies and found a good job, and her husband's career was also taking off. Their mother, filled with pride, told them to come home next month for the oldest sister's wedding. The oldest sister was now working as a car salesperson. Whenever she ran into a difficult customer, she would mention that her fiancé was a police officer to get them to back down. Her mother teased her, saying she was already acting like a cop's wife before she was even married. Her voice full of warmth and anticipation for the upcoming wedding. During his 2 years in prison, Siok Cho slowly found a sense of peace. After finishing his work each day, he would lose himself in his favorite books. One day, he happened to hear an interview on the radio with Miong, who had become a famous singer-songwriter. At the end of the show, Miong sang a song dedicated to the one she loved. It was the very song he and Miong had written together all those years ago. Over the airwaves, Miong shared a gentle message. She hoped the song would reach the man she loved, so he would know that she would never leave him, that she would wait forever. Tears quietly streamed down Siok Cho's face. Miong's unwavering love broke through the walls he had tried so hard to build around his heart. 6 months later, Siok Cho was released from prison. He had already told his father not to have the family come pick him up. He wanted to walk home alone and surprise everyone. Stepping out of the prison gates, Siok Cho took a deep breath, savoring the free air he hadn't tasted in so long. The moment he looked up, he froze. Standing there was Miong. She was wearing the very same dress he had given her 2 years before. Their eyes met, and the love between them was as passionate and intense as ever. This time, nothing would ever tear them apart again. And that's where the story ends. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next exciting story. Goodbye and see you next time.